Coming to you from high atop our studios in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're listening to Tech Move. This is episode 42. Today we bring you our coverage of NAB 2018 from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Rod Louie, and with me is Keith Moreau. Get ready. It's time for another exciting episode of Tech Move. Let's go! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Tech Move episode number 42, and a very exhausted man about the town, Keith Moreau, is joining me. I am Rod Louie on this Tech Move NAB 2018 special edition. Keith, welcome back from Las Vegas. Welcome back from the NAB show.
Thanks, Rod.
Okay, so in typical Tech Move fashion, which actually this is pretty good, we're actually going to hopefully release this episode within 6 months of the NAB concluding. So hopefully you'll actually get this relatively fresh. But Keith, tell me a little bit about 2018. How was the show? Was it fantastic? Was it lackluster? Because in our last episode, if you recall, we weren't really too sure as to were there going to be any huge announcements or anything like that.
Yeah. And usually there's a lot of teasing and a lot of rumors before a show, and there really wasn't much other than a couple, maybe like 2 days before, because before the actual show floor opens, they start putting up the banners and things like that, around the convention center.
Right.
And there was one very intriguing banner from Blackmagic design, and that was the just the top portion, kind of like the hot shoe portion of a mysterious camera, and some kind of mysterious message about the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So, well, I mean, that pretty much describes what it is, but but you still...
But you're not sure still, really.
You're still not sure what it looks like, really. You just know that it has...
You don't know if it's some rebranded thing that you had before or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that was actually kind of an exciting thing, and by the time I actually got to Blackmagic, I pretty much knew all about it, because I'd looked at a lot of the news feeds and things, and so I kind of knew what it had in it. But it was still kind of nice holding it and talking to the rep about it. Other than that, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of exciting stuff. I mean, it was like Apple released ProRes RAW. That's probably the second biggest news. Okay. It's like when a codec is like the second biggest news of a show, it's not a super exciting show.
That's great.
But And so there's the way the way it works. There's 3 different halls. The North Hall is just kind of more for bureaucracy. It's like all the show stuff. There's no vendors in there. It's just like for eating and meetings and the podcast and the studio they have and the press and stuff like that. The press room is the same, just as depressing as usual. I think they even removed the donuts, so it's even more depressing. and there's always just people on their computers, posting their stories or whatever they're doing. They don't look very happy.
Right.
So we spent about 10 minutes there. But just got our badges and then left. Tried the Wi-Fi, it didn't work, so just left.
Oh, the Wi-Fi did not work.
They have a special press Wi-Fi, and I could not connect to it. Probably
because everybody's on it, right?
Yeah, everybody's on it. There's 400 people in this room, and they're all on it. So it's not really that. Anyway, it didn't matter. So we just kind of scoped out the show. We'd like to walk through the whole show first just to see if anything catches our eye, which probably isn't the most time efficient, but it's good exercise.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
and
you get to scout out at least who the vendors are.
Yeah. And then if anything, is something like shiny, you kind of go towards that, and it turns out to be a big, LED panel company.
Right.
That you've never heard of and probably go out of business in a year. But
Right.
but for a
Right.
second, they've attracted your attention.
Right.
And then there's the stalwarts, the ones that we've done before, and so yeah, so it wasn't like a super exciting show with like, wow, this is so cool, I want to get all this stuff, but it was kind of in a way, because we knew what we were doing, it was more relaxed and it wasn't so crazy, and it may be more fun in a way. So,
Right. And as far as a lot of our listeners are concerned, any new announcements from Sony, Panasonic, anything like that?
let's see. Panasonic announced raw output for their EVA1. I didn't do an interview with Panasonic. I went to all these different places, like the big ones, Panasonic, Sony, and Canon, because those are the biggies, and Blackmagic. And the only one that I thought was intriguing was the Blackmagic one. I thought the other ones were boring.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Sony has the FS5 Mark II, which seems like they just put a 2 after it, and that's all they did. And then
Right.
it might be better, but it's not something I jump and down about.
Sure.
And then Canon has the C700 FF or FF C700, which we talked about in the last show. But it's basically the same as the C700, which has been out forever, except it's full frame. So, the camera literally looks the same. There's nothing different about it. Maybe if you look through if you take off the lens and look that's different. But other than that, it's not any different. So and then looking through it, it's like talking, so, okay, this is full frame. So what do we get with full frame? Well, you get the larger sensor. And what else? Well, it's the same, but it's larger.
Right.
There's not much to talk about. So that wasn't too exciting.
Right.
And then the EVA one, I kind of know all about it, and everybody knows about it already. It's pretty cool. It's a nice camera. It's definitely up there. It's definitely competing, but I don't see. It's not, to me. It's not like super super great. So there was a really interesting setup they had though. They had 2 or 3 EVA ones that were pointed at this really super dark. It was in this dark tent booth, and they were pointed at this dark scene with dark people, and there's one African American lady and then a white guy, and they were both kind of talking to each other. So you can kind of turn up the gain on the EVA one and see how super it was in low light.
Right.
But it was stupid because it's this 4K camera, and they have it 4 up on a 1080p monitor. So basically, you're just looking at a little. It's a pretty big screen. It's like 24 inches, but then really all you're seeing is like a 10-inch screen. So, and you can't tell anything from that, right? That's pretty much like looking at a little monitor on top of your camera to evaluate how great the camera is.
Right.
So I just said, can you just remove the 4 up? It was like at the end of the show, so there wasn't a lot of people around. And he said, I don't think we can do that. I said, really? You can't just like change it to full screen at least? He said, well, it's 1080 anyway, so at least it's better than whatever we're seeing now, like 480p. And he fiddled with it, and they got it to work. He says, but this is going through all our processing, so it's being downsampled, so it's not a really good true representation of the image. And I said, well, I guess we get some idea of it. But it's kind of like, why have a demo like that unless you can actually prove that it's good?
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that. Then it just seems like you're rushing it just to get to the show.
Yeah. So I looked at it though, and I had him reset things, and I put it, but there's a high gain mode in the EVA one, and I started looking into the shadows and said, what's that noise? This looks really patterny. It doesn't look good. He said, oh, that's just the wall, and stuff like that. It's just
So maybe it's not ready for prime time.
No, I think it is. I think that's just it's like, if you're gonna put your camera, if you're gonna like advertise the fact that it's this amazing low light thing, you better be prepared to back it up by people like me asking questions about how good is it in low light, like how much noise does it have.
Right.
So that's all. But it was actually pretty brave of them to do that. And the camera's solid. It's a very well made camera. So that part's really cool. It's not cheap. So I don't think I'm gonna get one though. But
it didn't do enough to sway you to get one.
No, because I have too many other cameras that are similar. I don't need one more. So but that was kind of interesting. And then the Sony booth, not too much interesting. They had super high-end cameras that they've announced in the last several months, and then nothing really new. So
my A6700 wasn't there?
I didn't see that, no. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But maybe someday, maybe at the next Cinegear.
Maybe
Cinegear seems to be like a
Cinegear.
show that more announcements are being made.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Well,
and it'll be a couple months.
Maybe it's where everybody wants to scout out what's happening at NAB and then just say, you know what, we're going to announce that Cinegear now because nothing happened.
Maybe for camera stuff. I think because NAB is so broadcasting oriented, it's like 2/3 of the show is broadcasting, and then maybe less than a third is filmmaking, and then the rest is software and stuff like that. So it's not focused on like what we specialize in TechMove as much as this huge industry.
Right.
Yeah. So, but broadcasting is changing. Broadcasting is becoming more internet focused and things. So it's kind of merging, but still the cinema cameras aren't you like a broadcaster's just not going to grab a cinema camera and say, yeah, I'm going to use this.
Right.
So. Yeah.
And it's very interesting because, of course, I previewed some of our interview segments that we're going to be bringing to this episode of Tech Move. And I think you're right. Some of our guests that we have are really centered around that whole broadcasting movement.
Yeah.
And so, I think you're right. As far as it matters to the Tech Move universe, some of these announcements are great and stuff, but they really are kind of like focused on just the major broadcasters and the equipment that they use.
Yeah, I think it has to do with money. It has to do with how big is the market. The broadcasting market is immense. There's so many TV stations and stuff that's done live events, lots of YouTube and Facebook and all kinds of live things. And they don't necessarily need or want cinema cameras.
Right.
They just slow them down.
Right.
So like for example, Blackmagic, one of their biggest announcements was kind of like a form factor of an Ursa Mini Pro, but with a 2/3 inch sensor, so that you could put on those kind of lenses onto it that exist in that realm, and use all your old lenses and get this nice new camera that's IP internet connected. So you can control it through the internet and all this stuff. So that's probably going to sell like 5 times as much as their other cinema-based cameras.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a market for that. So of course, I guess it's kind of true because Ursas are still selling pretty well and stuff like that, and with all the other smaller form factor cameras that do very nice quality stuff, Ursas are still out there, right?
Yeah, they are. The Ursas are a really good deal for what they do, and the one claim to fame they have is they are very controllable by remote control. Like all the settings can be ported out through an Ethernet port, and not a lot of cameras are in that category, and that's just something they added, and it's really useful. Like in one of our last shows, Alex Lindsay says that's why he's buying all these Ursa Minis, because they have this internet control. So they're really good for broadcasting and updating and not having to be right at the camera to know what's going on. So anyway.
Well, again, for those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who catch Tech Move on our audio podcast, we're going to be bringing some interviews that Keith was able to secure on the NAB floor. But also what is customary is that we also post them on our website, which is techmovepodcast.com, and through other various markets that we have. So some of these videos, we encourage you to find them and view them there, because some of these are like actual demos and stuff like that, so you can actually see some stuff and how they work. So that's something to look forward to. Keith, one other thing, I thought that the tech of Tech Move for the NAB had improved quite a bit. I noticed that this time we didn't run out of hard drive space. We didn't, our microphone cables weren't too short. The batteries the 9-volt batteries we usually try to run a city with actually held its own, so on and so forth. The tech of Tech Move was holding up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it held up pretty well. So it held up because it was a combination of trusty old technology, trusty 40-year-old.
Which I love. I mean, that's why this microphone I'm broadcasting to you on is still my favorite.
Yeah. Sometimes just the tried and true stuff works. So
yes.
same microphone and XLR cable, pretty much as last time. I tried to use my AVX. Okay, so I got a new Sennheiser wireless transmission system.
Okay.
It's called the AVX series, and it's basically designed for idiots. So yeah,
so perfect for tech move.
So it's pretty foolproof. Although the very first time I brought it out on the field, I couldn't use it because I couldn't figure it out, and then I had to just use another mic system.
So not so idiot proof.
No, unless you have the manual for the very first time to know just this very simple thing like hold and press to pair these two things, because it's a digital system. In the past, you had to. It was the other, like my previous Sennheiser, you had to change the frequencies manually and then match them up, and then they'd communicate. And sometimes they were off, and you'd have to spend time. This one's really cool because you just press one, and then within a few seconds, you press the other one, and then they automatically find each other. Kind of like Bluetooth. Mm-hmm. So, and the signal's really good, and it's digital, so it's probably a little less prone to dropouts than the past versions. And I really wanted to use it on the show and see how it worked. And it was just too kludgy because it doesn't come with a mic. It doesn't come with a mic dongle that you can stick on the end of a regular mic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they only sell their own mic, which I don't have because it's omnidirectional, at least in the kit, so it's useless at the show. Meaning it would capture too much noise.
Right.
That's outside of the person I'm pointing it to.
Right.
And
it would get a lot of that ambient stuff. And on those shows, there's nothing but ambient noise.
It's just so noisy there. It's incredible how quiet these recordings are because the mic I'm using is so directional.
Right. It's great. It really is great.
Yeah. But the mic that they supply isn't. You can buy a special capsule and all the stuff, and that's another $600 later. And I use it, start like 3 times a year. So I'm not sure if it's worth it. And I was before, like the day before, I was in the hotel room kind of putting this audio system together and trying to get this to work to just prove it. And I wound up, like gaff taping things onto the body pack transmitter, right, with an XLR adapter into it from the mic. And I had this gaff tape, like really ugly thing with wires sticking on the end of but I had it working. But then I realized that somehow with the antenna oriented in the least ugly configuration, it was making some humming. Like the mic was, and the cable was somehow interacting with the transmitter and making some kind of hum.
Uh-huh.
And so for me to get rid of that hum, I had to move it away from the mic. And then where was I going to put this thing, little body pack?
Right.
So I just said, forget it. This is just fraught. This is just recipe for disaster. Right. I'm just going to forget this and use the cable. And that was just the best decision ever.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. It looks great. I think it's perfect for our application.
Thanks. And then an upgrade on the visuals was a new iPad. So
nice.
This last about 6 months ago, when I was on my buying spree, one of the things I bought was a iPad Pro. The smaller version. Oh,
not the 12 or 15 that they have now or something like that?
Yeah, not the huge Mac-looking one. This is still like an iPad. Yeah, this one's like an iPad, and I got the little
I think it's like a 10-inch, right? I think that one's like a 10-inch.
I guess it's 10. It seems really close to the other one. It sounds like identical, so I guess it's 10, maybe like an 1/8 inch bigger than the last one. But and I got the smart keyboard with it, which is really cool because it just kind of sticks on with magnets. Yeah, and then it also powers it.
It's almost like the way they had those smart covers for the iPads a while ago, right?
I think they call it a smart cover keyboard or something.
Yeah,
because it's a cover too,
right?
And it turns into a keyboard,
right? Very flexible keyboard.
Yeah, and it's not too thick, and actually the keys are good. I actually use it. I kind of use it instead of a computer sometimes.
Right.
So anyway, I brought that, and so that has the 4K camera on it, and so that's why the quality's better. And then we had we set up a small tripod instead of the monopod, which was way easier for Veronica, so she wouldn't have to hold it steady the whole time, which is really tiring.
Mm-hmm.
and then I got this really high-end selfie stick, which we got for other things, and I put the quick release on that, so that was like an extender to make the tripod higher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that just clicked in, so it was like a two-piece thing, but it was pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we wanted to use the selfie stick for other stuff, we could actually use that as well. So just on its own. So yeah, it was a very portable setup. And it's, what's weird is like there's all these there's like these gigantic Steadicam rigs with the big telescoping like fishing poles over their shoulders,
right?
And they're counterweighted in the back,
sure.
And they take up like as much space as a car,
right?
When they're walking around, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they look ridiculous, and everybody around them's avoiding them.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it's kind of funny because they look like they should be at the comic book convention doing cosplay. So,
yes.
So as the alien from Aliens,
yeah.
That's I love those looks.
Yeah, and it's just gonna go on some YouTube downsampled, really lousy looking, or Facebook, which is even worse.
Right.
And they're going through all this work, and these guys are carrying like 70 pounds of stuff around, and
they got assistants. They have assistants like with the lights and everything.
Yeah. And here we are with our stupid little iPad and a mic, and nobody asks those guys questions because they're afraid. People are afraid to ask them questions, but everybody's always coming up to Veronica like in the middle of the shoot and like tapping her shoulder and saying, "What's that? How are you doing that? That's so cool. What's going on?"
Right.
And a lot of one time she just ignored this person like for 30 minutes. She just didn't answer him. She didn't even say anything, and he was like getting in front of her, getting her attention, and she just would not respond. It was really funny.
That's great.
Yeah. So
good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's the tech move. Pretty low tech.
But you know what? The low tech sometimes works better than all that mumbo jumbo. I'm telling you right now. Tried and true, like we were talking about. That's why we're recording this on 1/2-inch tape. I mean, can't get any better than 1/2-inch analog tape.
1/2 inch is good.
Right.
5/8 is better, but
but I couldn't afford it, so 1/2 inch is good enough. All right. Well, look, we've got plenty to get to. Why don't we take a break, reset, and let's bring up our first interview, and we will come back with more coverage of the NAB 2018 right here on Tech Move. All right, it's Tech Move and our NAB 2018 special edition with the one and only Rod Louie and the very experienced Keith Moreau. Keith, let's start off our interview segments right now. Okay. I actually thought that this was a very good interview here just because of our teaser that we talked about earlier on. Blackmagic Designs. They have a new camera out.
Yeah.
And looks pretty interesting, and judging by the video, it looks like a pretty nice looking camera. Any quick comments on that before we get to the interview?
Quick comments. I think I'll reserve it for afterwards.
Okay.
But I'll just talk a little bit. I'll just set it up about how we actually got this interview. So the way that Blackmagic works is there's a huge booth, like a gigantic booth with dozens of products spread across them in little display cases, and then there's a whole bunch of cameras that are lined up aiming at things kind of along the edge, and then there's a whole theater along one edge, and then kind of to the side of the theater is this way to get to the back of the whole thing, and in the back is where these interviews happen, and so that's where the press goes to line up the interviews. And I learned that calling ahead is worthless. Because they either lose you or you can't get there in time. So I always just drop in and just say, "Can you fit me in?" And then they usually do. This time was kind of crazy though. I went there and they said, "We don't have anything for 3 days."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the length of the show, isn't it?
Yeah. We were going to be gone before they had a slot. So, but they were nice, and they said, you know what? I think we do have a slot, like, in 20 minutes. Can you do it? And we were just at the scouting stage. We hadn't done any interviews yet. And I just said, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it work. So we waited there. We kind of set up behind there. There's like a little alley farther out from their main booth. But their main kind of press area is pretty nice. It's carpeted. It has couches, and they actually have somebody manning an espresso kind of bar. So that was kind of cool. In fact, in the video, you can see the person manning it, kind of like,
I saw him falling asleep in the back, but
he was doing his iPhone. He was not busy.
Because they didn't know if it was going to cost money, and so they were all afraid to approach him.
I think that everybody's been espressoed out there because
I'm sure
it's free.
Sure.
In fact, after it, we actually got some. Anyway, but the thing was, they were actually, Blackmagic themselves was filming some promos for themselves in the spot we were going to use, and they were using this camera, this pocket. It's like the only one they have.
Right.
So we were waiting. Bob and Veronica and I were actually waiting for them to finish, and we waited like 15 minutes beyond our interview time. Mm-hmm. And so finally they still took forever to just take down once they're even done. And they were doing it in like Mandarin or something because they're doing it in all these different languages. So we just waited for them to stop, and then we just set up. And that's why the background is that kind of sports thing. It's not the other background, which is a bunch of Blackmagic products.
Yeah, it looked like just a big wallpaper still.
Yeah, it was. And that was actually shooting away from the products because the crew was still kind of taking down and doing stuff in the other area. So we just said, let's just do this. Let's do it quick. And so, because Bob had to do something else and do another interview right after that. So that's a kind of the setup, just to kind of paint a picture of how we got in there.
Well, great. Well, let's do this. Let's run the interview. Mm-hmm. And so, folks, we'd like to present to you Blackmagic Designs and Bob Caniglia. I believe that's his name.
Yep. I think it's Caniglia. But
Caniglia. Oh, so it's silent G.
Caniglia. Like familia.
Right. Yeah. Great. So, okay, Bob Caniglia from Blackmagic and our very own Keith Moreau. This is Tech Move.
Hi, we're here with Bob of Blackmagic Design. We're talking about some kind of interesting new announcement that Blackmagic Design has come out with, I think, yesterday or today. So why don't you tell us about it, Bob?
So this is the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So long awaited, very anticipated, but here it is, and I think it's bigger and better than ever. That I think people will be really pleased with what we've done here. We have a camera that is capable of dual ISO, so native 400 and 3200, all the way up to 25,600, which gives it really good low light performance. It's got a micro four thirds mount, similar to the first one. Records 4K up to 60 frames per second, as well as 120 frames per second in HD windowed. So it records RAW, ProRes. It has all the features that the original had, but even better in the sense like we have a 5-inch touchscreen here. So it's got the full Blackmagic operating system for the cameras, so similar to Ursa Mini. You have the ability to record on CFast 2 cards as well as SD cards. And it also has a new port on the side here that'll get USB-C out, so you can go to a small drive or even a RAID array, so you can do continuous recording for longer runs.
What kind of battery does this use?
So it uses the Canon L6 that we have in some of the other products that we've been using. So you get about an hour worth of operating, which is great. It also has a mini XLR for audio. Has 4 built-in microphones, but you can also, this is phantom powered as well for the mini XLR. It has a full-size HDMI, which is different than the original. It has also still has a headphone jack and a 3.55 millimeter audio input too, and it is made of a new space age material. It's a carbon fiber polycarbonate body. This one is actually not a full production model, so the next one will actually be a little lighter, full production.
Do you mind if I hold it?
Yeah, sure. What do you think?
It's not bad. It reminds me of the quick take 100 from 25 years ago as far as the size and stuff. But let me see. How do we? Oh, okay.
Zoom, to see what you're doing.
That's pretty cool.
Go in here. You can play with the different, the different ISO settings. You tap here. We have the iris, shutter, frame rate. If I hit high frame rate, it'll switch it to 60 frames per second. Turn it back.
Not bad. I like it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are pleased to see it. It's been a lot of good buzz. It also takes stills. So again, another improvement from what we had originally.
And when are these coming out, and how much are they?
Right. So September is our ship date. It's $1,295, but it also includes a full version of DaVinci Resolve.
That's a pretty good deal. Hard to pass up.
Yeah, I think this is a good package.
On the SD card recording, are there limitations to that?
Right. So we have a list of what cards are suitable for what frame rates on our site for both CPAS and SD. So similar to what we have in the Ursa Mini Pro, where it has both. It has we recommend certain cards for certain frame rates or file sizes. So same thing. All that information's on blackmagicdesign.com.
Any off the top of your head, could I record RAW on SD cards?
No, I don't think you can get RAW 4K on, but you could do RAW HD.
Well, that's not bad. On maybe some version of ProRes that's pretty high bandwidth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can definitely get some 4K ProRes on here.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Boy, there's a lot of things in this camera, but I think that the one thing that I will say is that we put a lot in it, but then when you package it on top with a full version of DaVinci Resolve Studio, you get a lot for $1,295. That's for sure.
You might as well just get this just for the DaVinci Resolve.
That's right.
That's pretty cool. We talked a little bit before off camera about the autofocusing capability. It's pretty similar to the Ursa Minis.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So you can hit the focus button and it'll focus for that instant. It's not like a follow focus, but yeah.
Any other automatic features?
Well, you can, there's white balance. That you can hit a white balance button, your shuttle, your ISO, and then there's a wheel. So if I hit the ISO, I can spin this wheel here on the front, and that will change it for me really easily.
Pretty cool. DC powering?
Yep. So we have a mic. This power cord here is like a locking one, so it's real, an industry standard that we added in addition to the battery. So it's good to have that backup.
Well, this is pretty cool. I can't wait to actually buy one. It's going to be out in a few months, right?
September.
So in September, I'll be getting one of these. Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Keith Moreau signing off for TechMove.
All right, that's Bob Caniglia with Blackmagic and our very own Keith Moreau right here on the TechMove NAB 2018 show recap. And Keith, the Blackmagic, what do we call it? Pocket Cinema 4K camera. I thought you were a bit smitten with the camera. I thought you kind of liked it a little bit. Now that you're away from all the hubbub and stuff like that, and not wanting to hurt his feelings, tell me your real feeling about the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K.
Well, I think that the capabilities, if they actually do pan out, are pretty amazing for the price point. It seems to me pretty much like a Micro Four Thirds version of the Mini, the Ursa Mini, in my opinion. With the codecs and all the capabilities and etc. So that part's really cool. Having the capabilities in a Micro Four Thirds sensor of the Mini is kind of amazing. The raw recording, the potential for high bit ProRes, the large, very large display on the back, which is about the same as the Ursa Mini, which is kind of amazing. It's a really gigantic display on the back of this thing. So all those things, all the capabilities are pretty huge. I think they're going to sell tons for $1,300.
Yeah.
1,300 bucks.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That you can get something of this capability. As long as the image is good, it's just like a no-brainer. And you get the studio version of DaVinci Resolve.
Yes.
So that part's pretty cool.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
$1,300. I think it's going to be available sometime in September. That's what we're thinking about.
Yeah, we'll see. About
Right, exactly. the wishful thinking. The thing does what? Dual ISO?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that I guess I just heard about it in the Panasonic cameras, but now I guess Blackmagic is also doing that. Maybe they're even using the same type of sensor. I don't know. The same brand.
Yeah.
But,
5-inch touchscreen. Was it pretty? I in the video, you kind of get to mess around with it. Was it very responsive, or because I kind of noticed that you had a pretty nice reaction to the touchscreen. Was that just for show, or was it actually a pretty good one?
It was just for show. No, it's hard to tell in a couple seconds.
Right.
But it looked kind of like an Ursa Mini touchscreen. I've got an Ursa Mini, so it's kind of like that screen. It's nice. It's big. It's responsive. I don't know how bright it is. Kind of, if that's all it has when you're outside. I don't even remember. Does it even have an EVF? I can't even remember. Maybe you can see it on the picture. Yeah.
Don't know.
Hopefully it does have one, because that thing's probably going to get really washed out outside. A couple of things that I thought were capability-wise, it's awesome. It's got all kinds of stuff on it. Of course, it doesn't have any really. Well, it has one-shot autofocus, so that part's okay. I mean, this is the kind of camera I would just probably set and forget.
Right.
The battery life probably pretty low, because it just uses an E6 type battery, which is just like the standard Canon batteries.
Standard Canon batteries, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
which don't last very long. They should last longer, but they don't. And I guess the design is kind of weird, but I think that Blackmagic cameras and just in general are kind of odd looking. They just have angles and things like that. They kind of remind me of, like, I don't know. They remind me of the Star Trek Next Generation design theme for alien worlds, alien cultures.
Yeah, right.
But crossed with Game of Thrones, something like that. So, but it's okay. It doesn't matter what it looks like, because it's just a camera. So yeah, I like it. I'm probably going to get it. It's a kind of a no-brainer to purchase it. If you want to get
what's the difference between something like that and your GH5?
In a way that I think the GH5 is more refined, but I think probably this camera can record RAW, if you care about that. This camera probably has more real dynamic range because of that. And it can record ProRes as well, right on the camera. But in actuality, until we actually see it and compare it, it's probably not a huge difference. It's probably more like a GH5S.
Okay.
So if you got a GH5S, you're probably getting something pretty similar to this, other than the fact that it doesn't do RAW recording. But the GH5S has a pretty high bitrate internal recording, 400 megabits. So, and it doesn't have RAW out, but it can get pretty close. So if you need RAW, you have no choice. You have to get this camera for this small form factor. So I hear a phone.
Yep. Just ripped out the phone line out of my wall. Thank you.
Anyway, so yeah, I think they're going to sell like hotcakes. I think it's got all the, it's quite a bit bigger than the original pocket cinema camera, but
Right.
probably quite a bit more useful. So
there was one part of the interview that I thought maybe wasn't going to be pleasing to a lot of our listeners, and that was about only certain cards are going to be able to record certain frame rates.
Yeah.
Is that a big disappointment? Or is that kind of normal?
I think that's pretty normal with SDHC cards or SDXC cards. They can only record so fast, or maybe the reader in the unit is only of a certain speed. So pretty typical. I believe that's the case with their other cameras as well. So it's got the same limitations. They have a couple recorders and cameras that kind of have those limitations as well. So I wasn't too worried about that.
Okay.
As long as if I could record some flavor of high bitrate ProRes on it, that would be really cool on just SDHC cards. And I do have a bunch of CFast cards now, so I'm not too worried about that either.
And go over a little bit about this DaVinci Resolve. I mean, like, how much is that version that they're kind of throwing in with the camera?
Well, it used to be like $1,200, but I think it's $300 now. And in fact, the free version is useful enough where most people don't even need the studio version. So in a way, it's not really that valuable.
Fabulous.
It's only so the studio version. I don't know the exact specs and limitations, but basically, you know how you can use CUDA and video cards.
Yes.
For extra processing. There's only a certain number of cards you can employ with the free version of DaVinci Resolve. So if you have a huge rendering requirement and you want to like stack like five of these NVIDIA cards in your PC or whatever, your expansion box, you can I think you won't be able to support that many with the free version. With the studio version, I think it's somewhat unlimited. So potential for better rendering and faster performance is there. In actuality, I don't think a lot of people really need it.
All right. Fabulous. Yeah. Then it's just a little added bonus just for fun.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Terrific.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, that is, of course, Blackmagic. And we had another little exclusive there. Thank you, Keith, for
welcome.
that. Appreciate that. We'll be looking for that Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, hopefully around September. And so we'll stay tuned, kids, because Keith will have one in his hot little hands sometime after the release date, and we'll give you a little rundown on how it works and all that kind of good stuff, right?
Yep.
So, okay. Let's take a minute here, and we're going to come back with our next episode, our continuing coverage of NAB 2018. Is more of that stuff coming up here right on Tech Move. All right, it's Tech Move and our continuing coverage of NAB 2018. Keith, you were lucky enough, I'm going to call it lucky, to get he's the inventor of this contraption we're going to call the Easyrig.
Yeah.
And he's got a few things that he's going to talk about when you interview him. And and the gentleman's name is Johan Hellsten, I believe.
I didn't even know his last name.
Johan Hellsten. Hellsten is the last name.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to tell it's from Sweden. And hey, Keith, the interview speaks for itself.
It does speak for itself. I just want to set it up a little bit.
Go ahead.
So I knew I wanted to interview him because I actually have an Easyrig. I got one out, and after on our outro segment for this, I'm just going to talk about like what I feel about it. But what's really funny is that we were just walking kind of in the general direction of the Easyrig booth, and I saw him, and I said, "That's the guy," because he's very recognizable. I said, "That's the guy I want to interview for Easyrig."
Well, with the contraption he has strapped on his back, how can you not be?
Well, he actually didn't have the contraption. He was just like walking around. So it was really weird because we were just walking towards his booth, and we left him back there. Right. And we felt like, well, if we didn't get him, we get somebody else there, because I talked to somebody else who was really knowledgeable. Yeah. And they're all really nice. The Swedish people are very nice. And so, but on the way to his booth, he actually ran up to Veronica and just said, "Are you a camera woman?" Right. And because he saw her holding the tripod and stuff and some gear and with me and stuff. And the thing too is that at NAB and probably all these tech shows, there's like one woman for every 1,000 men, right? Sure. So sure. Exactly. So she really, especially somebody who's kind of doing stuff with the cameras and things. Not marketing people. Sure. So I think she gets attention because of that. So it was so funny. And then he came up to her and he says, "Are you?" And she said, "Yeah." And then I said, "And we're going to interview you in a second. So just let's go back right now." And that's how we got to the interview. So.
Well, okay, so and then also in previewing the interview, not only do we get Johan, but we also get his daughter Rebecca.
Yes.
And then he also drags some other guy named Bob Scott.
Bob Scott. He's actually a named cinematographer.
Yeah,
he's pretty up there. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if he got him out of the hot dog line or whatever. But he essentially tackles poor Bob and insists on promoting the Easyrig family. So it's quite the thing. Let's roll the interview.
Okay.
And the listening audience, the viewing audience, can judge on their own what they thought of it. And I actually thought it was fantastic, but hey, I'm biased. So here we are, Easyrig being interviewed by our very own Keith Moreau on the NAB floor, 2018, right here on Tech Move.
So hi, Johan. I think you're famous from the internet.
Aha! Yeah, more or less a little. The pizza man. Yeah, my neighbor.
Yeah, your neighbor, the pizza man. He we're not sure exactly what happened to the pizza man. We think maybe later he actually cracked through the 2x4, but
Yeah. He was showing off the quick release, and the quick release is this. Then I thought, is the quick release strong enough to hold all the cameras worldwide? So I call up my neighbor. We call him the pizza man because he is a big guy. And then...
He doesn't deliver pizzas.
No, he has been big boss. And hang on my gear. And you need to go into my Instagram to look up the pizza man. So it's Instagram.com Easyrig. Yeah, and now, so it's good enough for the pizza man. And now, let's see my daughter. Yeah, here Rebecca has my second top secret. That was the first top secret. Rebecca, show off the Lady Vest Gimbal Flex Vest.
Yeah, so this is the Gimbal Flex Vest. What it does, it's unisex, but it's kind of made for women.
Take the microphone. I need to get other people.
Okay. Oh, okay. So kind of made for women. It has Velcro on both sides here. So I can make it very custom fit. And you also have the straps here and here. And what makes it a gimbal is just that it counterbalances. So if I were to have a gimbal, that's so much weight out here that it counterbalances. And it's just a great fit for any both women and men.
Are you a camera person or are you a model?
I'm not a model or a camera person, but I did design the vest. So
you're a designer.
I would like the viewer to meet one of my own old guys that use my gear. This is
old guys.
One of my own old users. He has been shooting 12 Olympics. And I tell you what, 12 Olympics, that's much. So Bob, tell the Americans about it. Is it good or bad?
This has made me a cameraman for at least 15 more years than I would have survived, believe me. My spine before I used this was all over the place, and now it's straightening back out because the weight's no longer pushing this way down, it's just on my hips. So I love this rig, I love this man right here.
And Bob Scott is my local cameraman, Florida. So I have different cameraman all over US, also all over the world. Let's see, I go and get the third top secret product.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
So what do you do?
I'm a cinematographer. Started my career out in sports, so a lot of handheld and documentary style stuff, and then that transitioned into more action and sports films, feature films. So a lot of second unit stuff, and continue to do a lot of handheld, but that's my number one tool that I go to, and it's worked out great. And you know, the mad scientist here has improved it over and over and over again, and it's awesome. I love this product because it's common sense and it's very simple. And you know, Johan had a problem that, you know, and he you know, was working. I mean, he told me the story about how he was working on a sports thing and tried to figure out, how can I hold this camera all day long? And he looked up to the ceiling and he said, let me think, if I run a cable and put it on the camera, I can just kind of do this. Well, how can I do that? And there it is. There's the invention. It's brilliant.
And now you will see the third top secret thing I have for this NAB. This is the line guard. When you are shooting with the Soren, it's far out. Camera is far out. So it brings camera into your shoulder. That's it. Just like that. It's easy. And now number 4. Yes, Robert, when it's raining, it's a problem. It's a problem, but it could also be a problem with the sun for your viewer. So you look, he's protected from the rain and from the sun. Yeah, so that's the 4th thing. So come over to NAB, and we are close to Sony booth to check it out.
Thank you, Johan. Tell me a little bit about your history.
I have been cameraman since military duty in Sweden, and I was employed as a sound guy 5 years, but my school education was camera. So then after 5 years I became a cameraman, and I've been cameraman for Swedish television 30 years.
Do you still do the work?
I tell you, I need to stop doing camera work because of my company. My company has grown because there is a lot of cameramen worldwide. So that means I give up the camera career to help the cameraman. Yeah.
So when was the last time you did your professional camera work?
2 hours ago. Because I need to shoot all like Bob here, I will go out shoot him for the Instagram and Facebook. And you need to see the pizza man. You remember? Is it strong enough for the American cameras? Yeah, go to Instagram and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan.
Bye-bye. Oops.
Okay, that was... Oh,
That
he's back.
Yeah. Do you still on?
We're still on. It's okay. Keep going. We love it.
What should I do? Yeah.
Oh, give me some hints about how to use this. I have one. Give me some hints.
Yes. So you need the handle with a screw like 3/8, and just push, get it there, and then like that. That's so easy. So you have an Easyrig.
I have the cheap one. I have the Mini Max.
That's not. It's cost effective because your camera weight is less than 15 pounds.
That's correct. I have a little bit smaller rig than this.
Yeah, you are clever. Yeah, that's super good. And that is so good because it can't break. Because inside we have a mechanism that prevents from breaking. So it will release down to 15 pounds if you try to put on a 30 pounds camera like this onto it. Then it will automatically go down. And also, we have the conical wheel. So that means same power here and here. Otherwise, with a feather, it would be harder, if you understand.
So we're talking about the spring.
The old spring break. Now, never break. Automatically go down to 15 pounds.
Very good. Very good.
So
okay, so show me about, other than this, which you showed me, show me about some hints about how to use this thing. Just quickly.
Yeah. Hold camera steady, and then you are not, as long as you are standing still with your feet, you are smooth. you could do it smooth. But when you're starting walking, it's not a steady cam. But this was made for this. It was made for shoulder shots, working hours after hours doing interviews. For me, I don't use tripod unless it's a house far away. So I need to be standing still. As long as it's people in the picture, just go on the Easyrig. So I use tripod twice a year, and the rest of it I use the Easyrig. So it's quick, easy, and fast.
Do you find going from the shoulder to the front easy, or do you need to maybe mount this thing closer to the front? How do you do this?
No. Just swing out and camera goes down. And then swing back up. And it's not made for booming, but some cameramen do booming as well.
What's the most famous film that you shot this with, you personally?
At the Swedish television, it was 1 hour documentary about homeless people in Scandinavia. Yeah.
Can I see it?
It's an old one. The last year I worked for the news to be able to sleep back home.
Oh, okay.
So that's why, because otherwise cameraman traveled. But because of my company, I need to be able to sleep back home.
Got it. So are you this crazy at home?
I will be the same, but not so much action. It will be more action when you are on the show.
Okay.
You need to do action. And don't forget, look at the pizza man.
We'll find the pizza man and we'll show that.
And you know, they told me, is the pizza man coming? At what time will he test your unit? Will it be 10 o'clock or 11? But the pizza man is not around. Every Wednesday, I take on my skis, ski down to our sauna in our village, and there you meet the pizza man. He is in the sauna. The boys get together in the village.
The pizza man his reputation precedes him. Thank you very much, Johan. Well, this is Keith Moreau with Tech Move. We've interviewed the crazy Johan from Easyrig, and we got a couple hints, but mostly we found out about the pizza man, and we met a couple cinematographers. So thank you very much. This is Keith Moreau signing off for Tech Move.
I really don't know what to say. Well, I'll say this. That was Johan Hellsten from Easyrig. You are Keith Moreau. And,
It was like me corralling cats. That's what that interview was.
The thing that was fantastic was that I was ready to call security on your behalf, the way he was pretty much grabbing the mic out of your hand to pretty much talk to anybody that we didn't want to talk to.
Yeah.
But
he's a funny guy.
But he was terrific. He was terrific. Yeah. Johan, thank you very much. And we also want to thank Rebecca, his daughter, and that poor soul, Bob Scott, who didn't know he was going to be held hostage by Johan to speak with us. But it actually was quite a ringing endorsement. Keith, let's talk about not only the Easyrig, but let's also talk a little bit about the Gimbal Flex Vest that Rebecca introduced. Mm-hmm. And I also want to call it the Line Guard, and then the ever special Easyrig umbrella.
So when I first saw the Easyrig, I just said, there's no way I'm ever going to buy one of those. That is so ridiculous. I'm just going to look like a fool whenever I put that on, and I don't care if it's actually useful. I'm just not going to use it. Right. So, but last year I actually bought one.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course.
And this is after trying this other one called the Ready-Rig, which I liked a lot. But the Ready-Rig is in a way more obtrusive than the Easyrig. The Easyrig is not the small version that doesn't have all the extra stuff, and you're using a small camera. It's not that apparent that you have it on. unless you start adding all these things. So in actuality, it's a little bit, it's not too obtrusive. It's less obtrusive than, for example, a two-handed gimbal. You're just, so, and it does relieve a lot of the weight off your arms when you're carrying a camera in front of you, especially. So that's why I like it. I haven't used it a ton, but I have used it a couple times and it's helped. So, and not in this interview, but previously when we'd been scouting, I talked to another of the guys there, and he gave me some hints about how to use it even better. And so that's pretty cool. So that's just my little spiel about the Easyrig. It doesn't look cool, but it really saves your arms and your back, because you don't have to put a lot of extra strain on your back.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it looks like it's well thought out and can, allow you to, go hours with filming something without, having to hold it up. But it also looks like you're auditioning for Cirque du Soleil.
Especially the umbrella version.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But honestly, you look ridiculous, but I bet if you're out in the hot sun or in the rain,
Yeah.
you love it.
I'm
You're
sure.
the cameraman.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
I'm
sure.
And it's
I
kind
just
of,
wouldn't care. I would just call off the shoot. That's what I would do. I would just say, forget it. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's raining. It's going to mess up my hair. Forget it. I need to do it.
And then what Rebecca's daughter was displaying was kind of their new model, which is like a female version of it. So it kind of
even though I think they were really trying to say that it's kind of unisex, but it is, with the woman in mind. So that, she could handle, equipment for long periods of time.
Yeah, I think they probably had a few women operators that complained about the design of the original, because it just meant women were just not considered in it. And so they came out with this one. And that makes a lot of sense. So, and she was really nice. Actually, everybody in that whole company is really super nice. All the Swedish people are really lovely people. So, so I loved that interview. It was crazy. It was fun. It was everything I hoped for. And I'm really glad I had a chance to
Johan Hellsten of Easyrig, probably, and folks, this is one of the interviews you guys need to go to our website and see the video, because this one is good. So all right, fantastic. That's the Easyrig. Johan Hellsten again, along with our very own Keith Moreau. We're going to come back with our continuing coverage of NAB 2018 right here on Tech Move. Well, we have another special guest here on our continuing coverage of the NAB 2018. We have the fine folks from Hoodman. And Keith, this is a company that you've been with, kind of doing purchasing a lot of things, been in contact with them over the life of Tech Move, frankly. And Hoodman is back again. Tell us a little bit about your experience with Hoodman.
I think I recorded Hoodman maybe even the first NAB and that I attended a few years ago, and like 2015 maybe.
Yep.
And
that was probably back on episode 20 maybe. Just kidding.
20, 30. Right. At least a couple episodes back.
Right. Exactly.
But,
especially if it was many moons ago. Go on.
But what I like to go to companies that actually have their stuff, so I can talk about their stuff and some of the good and the bad things I like about their products. Ask them if there's going to be upgrades or whatever. But we found these guys, and I had no idea, the personalities involved. And they're not a huge company, they're not like corporate or anything. They're just they're a few brothers and a marketing guy, and that's the company.
That's what I was going to say. They, I remember the last time they seemed like a very kind of like family company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Family company. I think there's 2 or 3 brothers. I'm not sure. And but they're always wondering like how we could possibly talk this long about Hoodman stuff, and we're like laughing and doing all this crazy stuff, and they're just kind of looking at us strangely as we continue on. the other two brothers,
Right.
the other two members. And but anyway, it just turns out that we just have this kind of comic thing going on, me and Bob. So, kind of like you and me, I kind of riff off him and he riffs off me. And so it's kind of a fun time. We've got this comedic relationship. And so it's always fun to just go there, even if there's nothing to talk about. And this time there was almost nothing to talk about, but we found something, a new product.
Well, that sounds. Well, I can't wait to get to this interview. Let's roll the tape, and we have from Hoodman our representative Bob Schmidt and our very own Keith Moreau interviewing from the floor of NAB 2018, and let's take it away right here on Tech Move.
All right, are we ready? We're recording now? Okay. So this is Keith Moreau here with Tech Move, NAB 2018. We're actually in one of our favorite companies' booth, and we have one of our favorite people here, Bob Schmidt of Hoodman. Hi, Bob.
Hello, Keith. Welcome.
So, Bob, we asked you what was new and exciting this year from Hoodman, so tell us about it.
What we're showcasing this year, Keith, is our new drone flight zone tape. So what it does is it has the tape that you would normally see at a caution tape, but we've created it where it's specifically for drone flight zones. So let's say you come into an area where you have a lot of people around, you want to be able to segregate or just eliminate all the people around the area. You want to be able to put this down and surround it with the drone tape. I'm not doing this very well.
No, it's fine. So now how does this? Now what's special about this? what's special about this tape versus just regular caution tape?
So your normal caution tape, first of all, the thickness of it, the mil. This is 4 millimeter. Most of your caution tape is 2 millimeter.
I don't think it's 4 millimeter. It's 4 mils, right?
4 mil. Sorry.
4 millimeter would be like this. It would be like this thick. It wouldn't be caution tape. It would be caution planks. But we get you.
Okay, I can't even respond to that right now. But the caution tape is 4 mil. You're absolutely right. Where the others is 2 mil. But what's really interesting about it is the fact that we have a drone flight zone designation on it. So as it gets brought around 4 corners of cones, it blocks off your landing area. So no one kind of just like strolls in and gets hurt or injured, or I shouldn't say that.
We can't keep them from getting injured, but it lessens the possibility.
Yeah, you may have to cut that out. Don't leave that in.
Bob Schmidt has promised on live TV that nobody will ever be injured. There will be no injuries. In fact, we use this in all situations, not just drone flights, but
I have
dangerous.
this in my house. So on my pathway to another room, but go ahead.
And this has been insured by major insurance companies. It's been approved. They're all saying as long as you use the Hoodman caution tape, you have no liability.
Jeez, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, forget all that.
All right.
Let's talk about the real usefulness of this tape.
Okay, you're in an area. It's just to delineate your drone area. Your flight zone is going to be in a certain area, whether it's in a public place, private place, wherever it's going to be. You want to let people know that, hey, you're flying a drone here, and that something. I'm hungry.
You're flying a drone, and
sandwiches, please.
you're flying a drone here, and
So now you're at a point where the drone tape can be quickly affixed around a perimeter, around an area where you may be flying in that you may not want people around. So you put this up as another piece of, hey, I'm here. I'm a drone.
So give us a real-world situation. Like how much tape would you use? How big of an area, etc.?
I would say depending on the size of drone you're flying, like an Inspire, you could probably get away with a 20 by 20 by 20 square area that you would cordon off with your cones and with your drone tape, with the clip that we designed that goes in the top of the cone and holds it there. Woo! Yeah.
Wait a second. You actually
Brisbane.
you You actually designed
Yes.
a special spring-loaded clip.
Spring-loaded is a unique piece, one in a kind of Hoodman design.
Have you patented it?
No, we don't patent anything anymore. We come up with ideas so frequently and so fast, and the industry changes so fast, we don't care. Knock us off. If anything, they're going to always rise back and go to the original product, Hoodman. You like that?
I love that.
Catch up. We're not Apple, man. We just keep moving forward.
Something comes out, you just keep going. Tell me about the spring. What's so special about the spring?
The spring gives the drone tape a place to live. If you see it here, it's nestled in between two pieces of wire that have spring tension on them. So once it's in there, I'm just going to quickly show you. It's in there. You slide down. It's captured. So now when the wind picks up or anything picks up, this thing is stuck. It's going to stay there where you want it, when you want it. Let's say you want to put it into a knot in a tree. You can do that. Boom. You like that?
I like that.
Put it into a crack in the ground. Yeah.
Put it anywhere. You could put it on somebody's car.
In the exhaust pipe. You could put it in a...
You could put it in the little crack if they've cracked their window.
That's right. Like a kind of a drive-through tray, so to speak. Or a drive-up window.
Or you could just have somebody hold it.
You could. Oh, you could clip it on somebody, put it in their ear. Oh, that's weird.
There's so many uses for these clips.
These clips are going to go far. And what's going to happen is wait till we get to the construction industry. Oh, I shouldn't tell people that. Woo! It's going to be huge. Brisbane.
You heard it here.
A lot of infrastructure happening in Brisbane right now. A lot of redoing of roads, streets, pavement. That's where this is going to come in. Whoa.
If only that weren't true. But that's another story.
Do you guys
What?
pay taxes there?
No, you still need the cones.
The cones are still part of the use. Sal Solomon, how are you, sir? He's my buyer at B&H. So this is it here. I should say hi to him. Okay.
We're going to pause here while Bob says hi to one of his biggest customers, B&H Photo. They're actually over there talking for a minute. It's Saul Solomon, and they're talking about how many orders of the clips and the drone caution tape they're going to be buying. So we'll be right back. This is play-by-play. It looks like they're in a heavy bargaining session. Looks like it's going well for Bob. They're up. Looks like there's a little snag in their negotiations, but they're looking pretty good. Bob's doing pretty well. He's a very shrewd negotiator. They're smiling. This is a good sign. I think we're going to have to edit this. I'm just going to do a scenario here. Yeah. I'm just going to do a scenario. Yeah. Okay, so here I'm just like an average person, just walking my dog. And I'm going to walk my dog, and I'm walking. And then oh wait, what's this? Stand clear. Drones. I look up and I save myself. Drone caution tape. It's very useful. Very, very useful. So no worries. I actually did a demonstration of the drone. I did a little reenactment. Please. I did a little reenactment. I also did a play-by-play of your negotiations with B&H. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
You know why? I can't tell you.
Because they ordered like 50.
Off camera. No,
they ordered
tons of stuff.
Okay.
They're the biggest dealer in the country, in the world.
I know. I love them. I order everything from them.
You should.
In fact, I ordered one of those Hoodman landing things.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I ordered one
that's very noble
6 months
of
ago.
you. So you didn't hit me up for one for no charge. That's pretty cool.
No, I went.
That's not how you roll.
No, I want to support you.
That's cool.
And I'm going to be buying 50 rolls of the caution tape in a minute.
The caution tape is just, it's kind of heavy though, so we'd have to ship it. That's going to cost me some money. Caution tape, don't say that. It's very light. When you do 4 millimeter, it gets very heavy.
So
this is 4 millimeter in life. Tell me.
4 millimeter. Well, this is 10 inches. No, this is
wow.
4.
That's nice. Yeah.
So is this person in our shot or no? No, okay.
Oh, we're kind of living the dream now.
I'm photographing the Hoodman booth. Okay. Here we
No,
go.
the tape, first time, this is the first time the world's seen it, and I will say this, people are impressed, and I think they're willing to pick it up and use it. I mean, which is good, because a lot of times you don't know, right? This is a litmus test. Whew, I'm out of breath. Damn.
So actually, is this actually the premiere of the tape?
This is the premiere of the Bob's Beauty Pageant. That's where we're going with this. See, we've gone off the drone deep end, right? The deep end is giving us this situation where everything else doesn't matter anymore. As long as you're wrapped in drone tape, you're going to be fine. Earthquake, forget it. Don't worry about it. Drone tape. Car breaks down, drone tape. Keep running with this.
Honestly, I feel like
Moped breaks down, drone tape.
I feel like people kind of ignore police barriers, but they're not going to ignore the drone tape barrier.
I don't think they will. I think the pads themselves are let alone enough warning. Like, hey, not warning, just hey, we're doing something here. This is going to put us over the edge.
This is awesome. So now, and also if you happen to just need some type of rope or something like that, something to fasten, a tie or a sash.
For what reason?
Just a formal occasion.
I could go with this.
I think so.
It could go into a bow tie. It could go into a straight tie. It can go into a scarf. It can go into a headband. It can go into a sash or a sachet. Is that funny? It's kind of funny. I think I'm pretty funny, actually.
You are funny. You have a future.
Keep me around.
We're going to keep you around. You have a future in comedy. So, so how much is the drone tape?
The drone tape comes in rolls of 250 feet. This bad boy. 250 feet. It's $20 a roll. But if you order the roll and 4 of the clips, it's $30. You're out the door. You got your clips, you got your roll, and if you don't need any more clips, you just buy the roll. It's $20. So there it is. Basically $20 plus 10 for this.
Is it reusable?
It is, unfortunately. Just kidding. I mean, you got to realize we make products that last forever. There is no planned obsolescence. That's a big word for me. No planned obsolescence at Hoodman. There should be. Why wouldn't there be? It's like you buy a dishwasher every 5 years now. Well, when I grew up, they lasted 30 years. Anyway, that's a different story.
No, I agree.
Detroit, you got to realize that. A great place to be from. Detroit is like the land of planned obsolescence.
Speaking of Bob's history, and I know that Bob didn't really want to get into this, but I want to get into it.
All right.
So Bob pretended that he knew where we lived, which is Brisbane, which is where I and Veronica live, and that's just south of San Francisco. Bob said, "Oh, I know Brisbane really well," but he wasn't able to really pinpoint later when we quizzed him. But let's just kind of take it on faith that maybe he does really know where Brisbane is. But he said, "I used to work there. I used to do stuff there." And what kind of work? And you said, "Well, I pretty much was one of the pioneers of video assist."
That's correct.
Tell me about it.
Video assist in the early days was the film camera's way of giving you a video image in the primitive state. So in other words, guys like Jerry Lewis with a video camera up next to the Panavision camera that was rolling film. You would show video, we'd run it through monitors. You're the director, I'm the producer. Everybody wants to see what's going on, but they don't want to disturb the cameraman, or camera person, I should say. And that gives, with video assist, allows you to do that. So I look through the lens of the camera, the film camera. I get a video picture. We help pioneer that technology and that service. So now we would go out on commercials. You got a director, you got a producer, you got an agency, you got all these people that need to be able to see what's going on, but you don't want them all up at the camera bugging the camera person. So this is where video assist came in. And we started that in the early 80s and started going out on jobs, and that's why I ended up in San Francisco so much. Obviously, beautiful locations, the city, you go north, Mount Tem, all those places you go around there and up the coast, and we would run our video assist machines on the film shoots. But they still do it.
Tell me what this ancient video system machine was like.
It was early tape recorders, literally. It was surveillance cameras built into the camera optics, okay? And we would take that footage and record it. So let's say they jumped off a bridge, and then they wanted to play it back to see if they got it. Well, with film, you got to wait the next day till it gets developed. Well, with the video assist, we could play it back for them over and over and over with the videotape machine. And it was awesome because they could see it. Yeah, I got it. I nailed it. Let's get out of here. We'll go to the next shot. So that's kind of really, it was continuity, it was action, it was performance, all that stuff wrapped into one, but you had to wait till the next day if you were shooting on film to see, so we could show it to them right then and there. And that's how important it was. Seriously, it was pretty cool.
I actually do remember those days a little bit. No, I do. And I'm a little bit older than I look.
Show me those fake gray hair. It's going away at me.
But this is strictly for film.
Yeah. But now they're still doing it on video, on digital shoots. They still have the same, because they don't want to touch the what's the word I'm looking for, the original, so to speak, in the digital deck or wherever it's being recorded. We take a feed off that and we still do the same thing because it's become part of the culture of how things are shot. They don't use it all the time, but still like 75% of the time. Because you still have the same dynamic. You got agencies, you got art directors, you got people that need to see it, and they all don't want to go up to the, there's that weird, they don't want to touch the camera, so they bring it to the people. And we create a village, video village. That's where that came from.
Video village.
Yes.
It takes a village.
Takes a village.
And now you can actually cordon off the village with your caution tape.
See, we're going to change this to video village on the next run. It can be anything you want it to be. You want it to be Brisbane Rocks? We're going to do that. Live in Brisbane? Don't live in Brisbane. Live in Brisbane in Australia. Different pronunciation. I figured you guys knew that, right?
We knew that.
I don't think you did.
Well, that's a really interesting part of your history, Bob. So then what made you quit the video village industry and get into the Hoodman industry?
So when we brought people out in that environment, outside, you couldn't see the monitors. So we had video monitors, but you can't see them. So it caused a big problem. So one of the other brothers came up with a hood system. And that was the basis by which we started doing hoods for everything, because we realized not only we had that problem, but everybody in the world had that problem. So we came to NAB in 1987. Hello, that's 31 years ago. Whoa, I'm actually 20. No, but no, came here 40 years ago, not 40. Woo! 30, thank you, 31. Good memory, I like that. See, you're still young.
Just good math.
That's right, you can add. But no, we came in and that gave us the premise, why not try it for other things that have screens? And that kind of evolved through the years with LCD screens and Watchmans. Sony came out with Watchmans, little baby TVs. They came out with all kinds of other things, and then we came along the way. And then digital came out when 1999 with digital still cameras. We were back in business, so we started making little baby Hoodmen. Little baby Hoodmen were running around. That's what formed our little company that's kind of grown. It's kind of grown from the last, 30 years. And then Crispy came along and took it to the next level.
What's Crispy?
He's our national sales manager.
Wait a second. Crispy is watching us.
Crispy is off camera right now. He's acting like he's not paying attention.
What's behind the name Crispy?
Well, his name's Chris and his last name begins with a P. So we go Chris P.
Really?
No, there's no now that marijuana is illegal in California, there's no, he's not crispy. We do edibles. Just kidding. It's legal though. You're gonna have to watch all this stuff, Crispy. I'm saying some crazy stuff here. I'm a leader of the community.
Well, we've established that if you put up the Hoodman tape, caution tape, it will absolve you of all liability. No. We've established
the origin names to that at all. Stop it.
We were just kidding. We'll be okay.
Send you back to Brisbane in a shopping cart. Woo! the Animal House? Did you ever see what he did to the guitar? No, I'm just kidding. That was from Godfather. Thank you.
Did you
It's a hothead.
Did you ever do stand-up?
No.
Did you ever try it?
No.
Did you ever think about it?
Yes. You know who I saw, though, was, what's our guy's name? Steven, the guy with the dry pan face. Miller? Stephen Wright. I don't know if you remember that guy.
I remember him.
He was like totally deadpan, funny. What was one of his lines, Crispy? Bring it out. It's like, he's in town. I don't know if, no.
We saw his poster.
Yeah, you saw the poster. That's kind of cool. I mean, that's guys, guys like that. Pryor, Richard Pryor.
They were amazing.
Williams. Those are the guys, man.
They are.
Sam Kinison. Got to throw one out for Sam.
He's great.
You sure?
So, believe it or not, I actually did a little bit of stand-up.
Really?
Yeah, long
You
time.
doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was total.
You have the potential.
It was a total failure, but I did learn what the little red light in the back of the room meant that only you could see. When the manager wants you off the stage, they start blinking a red light.
It's like, put it down.
They say, get off the stage. But the audience can't see you.
Right. That's hilarious. I don't know. There are a lot of. I'm in the heart of Hollywood, so
I think you have.
This place is.
I think you have potential. I think this might be the start of it. The tape.
That was a stumbling block for some reason.
I think the tape, the 4mm version, might be funnier.
Oh yeah.
The really thick planks that you bring around that are about 200 pounds.
2x4s.
Yeah, 2x4, pretty much.
Yeah, the 2x4. This is the 2x4 of tape, of caution tape.
And I think I'll be having some of this shipped for free.
Yes.
What do you need?
Now you tell us.
We're gonna see. Now we're looking at the cones. Points of the cones.
These are the cones. These are part of the Hoodman drone tape.
But the cones are not sold by Hoodman.
No. Get your own cones. They're everywhere. You can get them at Home Depot. The clips are ours and the tape is ours. You put the clips in the cones, you got business. You got happening.
Can I ask you who is the writer?
That was Brother Lou.
Okay, and so did you have meetings?
We did have words with that. Yeah, we had words about it.
Give me a little play-by-play of one of the meetings.
There's a certain repeat, okay? There's like, what's that step and repeat? That's like you going through the...
Rinse and repeat?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. No, that's where we go through with the actual... I can't remember. No, when they go through the line and the red carpet, step and repeat.
Okay.
That's what this is. So every 3 feet, this repeats.
And how did you figure out how often you want to repeat?
He did. He sat down and drew it with his abacus and other pieces of technology.
Because honestly, I think it's like a little bit, maybe they're too often.
It's a little too busy.
It's a little busy.
We'll see. We have 6,000 rolls of these to sell. Thank you. Thank you for that vote of confidence. But that's okay, though. We're cool. I'm okay with it.
Do you do QA?
Before, and we've, fallen flat.
QA, focus groups.
But you know what? I think we're going to be fine.
I think you're...
People like yourself may notice that, because you're a detail-oriented guy. Most of these guys, they're not going to notice it.
Stand clear. What does that mean?
That's a nice way of saying get the out of the way. No, leave. Stand clear. It's aviation terminology. Stand clear. Drone flight zone. Woo! You got to say that at the end. Woo!
Okay, I think
that one, huh?
I think we've exhausted all comedic possibilities of the tape, the clips, the video village.
You caught everything you needed to catch on this round of 2018. I think you've seen everything. I think the drone tape is a highlight. And some other hoods are mixing in, and it's all good, We're next to DJI.
That's awesome.
It's kind of cool. That's when you turn it around and... No, I'm just kidding. You guys know your stuff. Yeah. Put a little shot. This is where Bob's booth is. You notice when it's my booth when they're not around? I came up with everything.
Really?
Well, yeah, when they're not around, sure. I don't have to hear dialogue, right? You guys are too much.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up because I think we've been going for like half an hour on drone tape, which is it's got enough.
Pull the hard drive up, so that 4K stuff. You better cut it down to like 2.6 or whatever that stuff is. I don't even know.
We'll turn it into SD eventually.
That's excellent.
So I think we're done. Do you have anything else to say for yourself, for the company, for the tape, for the products?
I think we're awesome. I think we really put out a good product. Not sure about you, but you know, I'm from the Midwest, whatever that means. We won't get into that. You got to get into Detroit. It's a great place to be from.
I've been there.
Huh?
I've been there.
If you live there.
I've never lived there.
Okay, good. Don't. Stay in Burlingame or whatever. Where you?
We knew it. We knew he didn't know where we lived.
That's a good one, though. All right.
Okay, so I think we're signing off now. Thanks so much, Bob. You've been excellent as usual. It's always the highlight.
Absolutely. Good time with you.
Okay. This is Keith Moreau here signing off with Tech Move for the NAB 2018 show.
You know, I don't really know what to say about the interview, but anyway, that's Bob Schmidt from Hoodman and our very own Keith Moreau. I have frankly never heard a interview last that long to talk about something that I mean, it's look, it's a nice product. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here. But it's caution tape. That was the longest interview to talk about caution tape. Keith, you have a lot to explain. Go ahead.
We had, it included everything. It included B&H came over, and there he had to go and talk to them and to do some negotiation, and then he came back, and then we continued to talk about the tape. And it's just kind of amazing how deep you can go into something, if you really care about it. And
and boy, did he care! I'll tell you that much. Woo! Did he care?
Yeah. So it's an interesting product. And,
yeah.
I didn't get any at the show, but if I did a lot of shoots, I might do it. Although sometimes I kind of want to not let people know too much that I'm filming.
Right.
I don't want to say, I'm here, I have a helicopter, I have a quadcopter, I'm here.
Right.
But I guess for those situations where it's a really professional situation, you want to make sure people are safe.
Yeah.
Not my situations, but maybe somebody else cared about people's safety when they're flying would use that.
Well, that was spectacular. I'm still actually a little dizzy from the interview. I'm a little bit dizzy from it, but
yeah, I'm still dizzy, and it was weeks ago. So.
Well, hey, that was great. That was Bob Schmidt again from Hoodman. Thank you, Bob, for being on with us. We really appreciate it, and we actually really do love all the products that come out of the Hoodman company.
Yeah, we do.
And we've been supporting them for a long time, like Keith had mentioned before. So thank you very much for that. Keith, another scintillating interview there. Yep. I'm going to give myself an ice bath, and we're going to come right back with another interview from NAB. Is that okay with you?
That sounds great.
All right, here we go. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back for more right here on Tech Move. It's Tech Move and the continuing coverage of NAB 2018. Rod Louie and Keith Moreau here. And Keith, you're about to bring to us another product interview, actually, from the fine folks over at DJI. And, I kind of, again, in our pre-production meetings, staff meetings with all the Tech Move heads here at the headquarters, I am actually very excited about this particular product.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all here.
I think it looks pretty darn good. And, without giving it away, because we want to, let the interview speak for itself. But what kind of drove you to get the folks over at DJI? Is this something that you kind of had your eye on yourself?
Yes, I always try to go to the. Well, it's kind of hard to miss the DJI booth there at NAB. It's just right. There's this kind of main big door that goes from the North Hall to the Central Hall.
Okay.
And the North Hall has all kind of it doesn't really have the vendors. It just has a bunch of kind of support stuff, like the food's there and the podcast studio and the stores and things like that are in the North Hall, where you register.
Sure.
And where the depressing press room is.
With the poor Wi-Fi and unclean power sources?
Yes. I don't know. There's a gathering of all these people on their computers working, I guess. So as soon as there's this huge door or medium-sized door and bunch of doors that go into the Central Hall, which is where a lot of the good stuff is. There's the Central Hall and there's the South Hall. The South Hall actually has 2 stories. But the Central Hall, DJI is basically right there at the opening. Like you go in there and all you can see is DJI. And DJI is crazy. Their booth is always crazy. It's pretty big booth, and it's just packed all the time. It's weird.
DJI is
just packed. Yeah, it's like the rest of the show can be kind of normal, and then DJI is always packed. So so it's going there and getting an interview is it's always crazy. It's always just kind of fitting and getting a tripod or some kind of support device for our recording system is always kind of iffy. But getting enough space where we're not getting trampled on and interrupted and people going in front of us. But we managed to kind of squeeze in, and I looked around first. I always go look around first. I don't just kind of dive in and start recording. I look around first and see, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. And there wasn't a lot of brand new stuff at the DJI booth. They had come out with stuff like months prior, new stuff like the Mavic,
right,
Air.
the drone, the new drone.
Yeah, the new drone, the Mavic Air.
That is very popular, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's a reason for it because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really
great.
Like
this teeny little thing with amazing images.
Yeah.
And I just take it everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even one of my friends bought one of those, and he's not even a videographer,
It's actually perfect for beginner or even a pro, because then you can just take it wherever you go. It doesn't take up much space. And then if you feel like a drone shot, you can get one. But it also flies well and it's got good image quality. But anyway, so I didn't really want to talk about that too much because that's kind of old news. But I did see the angled single gimbal they have now, which DJI has never come out with a single gimbal. So all their gimbals are the ones that kind of hang down from above, and they have the 2 handles, kind of like the original Movi. That's what the DJI Ronin was based on, and then even the Ronin-M, which is a smaller version. They're always this hanging down format. So I was kind of wondering when they'd get into the single market, because singles are actually pretty cool. They're actually, I feel like they're more useful in a way than the dual handle ones. And just because they're smaller, so you can kind of, the whole footprint is smaller. So there's an issue, that they're kind of heavy. It's hard to maybe support it with one hand or kind of one handle. But in general, they're just much more versatile, because you could put 2 handles on them if you want. You can always mount like a bar. Like I have several of these singles actually.
Yeah.
Actually, it's another thing maybe I want to sell you. I just showed you my last old gimbal, but I have another better gimbal I could sell you too. But
that could be something that I think about along with any other throwaways that you have. That would be terrific.
Well, Rod and I are still negotiating about the GH4. But anyway, maybe we'll talk about that more in the outro, the main outro. But so I just kind of went to this one area where there were two guys kind of handling the angled gimbal. And I said, so who can I talk? I'm with TechMove. And they immediately went, "You're with TechMove?" And they just, like, their jaws dropped. Like, they couldn't believe that I was there. And they
didn't have their security usher you away in cuffs or anything?
That's the thing with the DJI booth. It's just so crazy. It's so crowded. The security can't get to you. There's plenty of time to evade them.
Terrific.
But anyway, so the guy that I asked, which happened to be Soren, is the actual product manager of this product.
Ah, great.
He's the guy that actually developed. I didn't even know. I had no clue. I was just lucky.
Yeah.
So he was the guy. So he just said, "Yeah, I'll be back." And he actually came back, and it was him. I thought he was going to get some press person to talk to me, but actually he talked to me.
Right.
So that was really cool, and he was very open, amazingly open, which I really like. Because sometimes these people, if you talk to the PR people, they just give you the party line, and they don't really give you much detail about how the process goes. But he was actually the guy that goes through DJI and develops it and asks for feedback and improves things. And if there's bugs, he tries to get his engineers to fix them and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. I actually loved that interview.
And I think the project is called Ronin-S, right? Is it Ronin-S?
Yeah.
As in the
is it
letter
the Ronin-S?
S?
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what we have in our show notes here.
Yeah, I think it is. It's been a while, so I have to remember it's called.
That's fine.
Ronin-S.
That's
Ronin-S. Yeah, that makes sense. Ronin-S, because S for single. Yeah, so that's a product. It's not out yet, but it hopefully will be out by our Cinegear show. So maybe I can go to DJI there and
actually play around with one for well, it looks like you kind of got to play with one there a little bit.
I did. It feels, size-wise and everything, it feels really similar to the other one, the Zhiyun
the
Crane 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Crane 2, which is the bigger single that Zhiyun has. But the thing
which is the one you have already, is that correct?
Yeah. I have that already. In fact, I just used it a bunch when I was just in LA. It's pretty cool. But the thing that I think that this is better than the Zhiyun Crane is that it has this angled arm, which is really cool because you can see the back of the camera really easily. Especially if it's like a Sony camera that doesn't have the flip out LCD.
Right.
On a GH4 or 5, they have the flip out, so it's a little bit easier, even if they have the gimbal motor blocking it. But anyway, so that was just, and one of the questions I asked him was, so why didn't anybody think of this before?
Yeah.
Like it just seems like it was something that should have been done from the beginning.
Yeah, like fully articulating screens for cameras, but which would be great.
Sony hasn't quite gotten there.
Right, exactly. We're not allowed to.
But anyway, so we just talked about stuff, and then it was so interesting. We started talking, like, how after the interview, you're kind of more relaxed, and you start talking about random stuff. And it just got really interesting. I just, do you mind if we record more? And so there's kind of two parts that might not be edited together or not make too much sense. But there's a more detailed part, which is shorter later, and we'll figure out how to edit that in.
All right.
So anyway, that's
Great.
how it went.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's get to it. Let's reveal the interview to all of our folks out there. And this is kind of one of those interviews, folks, that the audio part is great because it's great description, but you really should go to techmovepodcast.com and take a look at the video because I'm sure we're going to post it there. Keith, would you say
it's going to be? It's going to be on TechMove, and then it's going to be on our TechMove YouTube channel too.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So really, folks, I also encourage you to kind of take a look at it because it's a nice thing to look at. So, all right, enough of me. Let's get to Soren over at DJI and our very own Keith Moreau as we do more coverage of NAB 2018 right here on TechMove.
So what is this called?
This is the Ronin-S from DJI.
Okay.
The name is right here.
Okay, so we're going to start. All right. Hi, this is Keith Moreau with TechMove NAB 2018. We're here at the DJI booth. We're here with Soren of DJI, and he's going to show us a new gimbal. Hi, Soren.
Hi, this is the Soren from DJI, and I work on a Ronin-S product team, and I'm glad to show you guys how the Ronin-S has progressed.
Awesome. Tell us about it.
Okay, so during CS, we showcased the first batch prototype. It's not perfect, and we received tons of feedbacks from it. And then we try to incorporate as many as we can onto the future products. So this is somewhere in between the final production unit and the first batch prototype. We made improvements such as the arms are thinner now, but we're not losing any stiffness and integrity. So the performance of the gimbal is not affected despite the fact that it's lighter. And also we improved the connectivity here. There will be multiple CAN bus ports for camera powering support and accessory powering. And down here, we can finally showcase the DJI Command Ronin-S control unit, which allows you to directly access the gimbal parameters and access supported camera parameters as well. And this is the focus wheel for Ronin-S, allows you to pull focus all by yourself. So you're no longer rely on the camera autofocus all the time, but you can also create your cinematic look by pulling the focus and adjusting everything else.
That's great. Can you see his face, or is he blocking it? Okay, good. So tell me what cameras are supported by the focus.
Stage 1, we started the Panasonic GH family development already. So by the time we start shipping, we'll have the GH5 compatibility built in already. Later on, we'll work on Canon and Nikon. And then finalizing everything, we'll start working on other camera brands as well.
So I gather this is not out yet. Do you have any plans or any dates about when it might be out?
We'll announce more pricing and availability related information in early May. Yeah, by then we can know more detail about it. Yeah, and specs as well.
So tell me, what do you think is special about this compared to some of the other single gimbals out there?
Okay, basically the biggest advantage of this product is the customizability. So there are 3 customizable user profiles, and you can switch using this M button here. And also this M button allows you, so switch to profile 2 already. This M button also allows you to turn into sport mode, which allows you to do the whip pan operation and catch up with very fast moving objects. And also in the front trigger allows you to intuitively control the gimbal modes. So when you press and hold it, the gimbal turns into a lock mode, which allows you to do a very smooth one-take transition. Or you can double tap it to recenter the gimbal. Triple tapping it will allow your gimbal to go back 180 degrees facing the operator to shoot some selfie kind of footage, and double tapping it to bring it back to the center. And also, the app that we've built for the Ronin-S is the best available access thing that we ever designed ever. You can adjust camera gimbal parameters. You can allow you to capture motion time-lapse videos by designing the gimbal movement orientation and routes and assigning intervals whatsoever. So it's everything that's integrated.
What am I giving up with this versus the Ronin-M?
Oh, so the Ronin-M has a bigger form factor. It's basically impossible to hold it like this and you finish a shoot even for one take, right? You have to hold it all the time with dual hands. But the Ronin-S gives you better flexibility. You can hold it with one hand or with or without the extended grip on the bottom. And also will offer dual handheld support accessories in the future.
So why would I get a Ronin-M once this is available?
Well, Ronin-M is still a very good system. It's more integration. It's directly compatible with the S-Bus control. And then also the Ronin-M comes with a bigger form factor so that you can mount more accessories such as field monitor, live view transmitter with ease. But on a Ronin-S, you might be losing certain amount of accessible like accessory mounting places here. So to maximize the accessorizing capability, we will have a cheese plate here on the side of the gimbal bar. Then you can mount a magic arm or anything else that's supported. Yeah.
Now, could you invert this and put handles on top?
Yeah, there are 2 ways to invert this gimbal. So first of all, I can hold this trigger down, and do this all the time. Now the gimbal is inverted with one smooth take. I don't need to pause any motor. I don't need to do any settings. Okay, now I'll bring this up, and okay. The other way to do it is the secondary inverted mode, which is not that easy. So I flip around the gimbal, and then I will flip the roll axis as well. And then I'll re-engage the gimbal. Now is the secondary inverted mode that I'm talking about. So this gives you maximum user movement capability on the tilt axis. While it's not very quick, but it's more freedom to move, right, as you can see from here.
Does it require this handle, or does it detach here?
This is actually a detachable battery grip. So when I turn off the gimbal, I can easily detach it by unlocking the lever, first step, and then removing it. This is the battery itself, so it powers the gimbal and also serves as the grip for the gimbal to operate with. And to install, just slide in and then lock the lever here. That's done.
So I almost see this as being able to slide into some type of handle mount that has a battery in it.
Exactly. In the future, we plan to accessorize it by offering you guys a dampening system with a powering capability, so you can mount it to a fast-moving vehicle like a car, like a buggy, or a cable cam, or even a crane and a little chip. That's totally useful.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so now, what if I have something that a fairly heavy type camcorder, maybe not a mirrorless or DSLR? Is it going to be capable enough for that?
Currently, we don't have the final spec on the payload capacity yet. Internally, we're trying to mount with a Red Dragon Epic 6K with a Canon zoom lens like 24-105, and it survived. Yeah, well, also the Sony FS5, I tried to balance it myself and it worked. Camcorder-wise, we don't have anyone in-house, so I don't know for sure.
So I have a C200, and I'm able to balance it on one of your competitors' rigs that's similar to this.
I might need to borrow one to see if it fits.
I think it'll fit because it's actually about the same height, and it's a little bit shallower than this FS5, which I also have.
Yes. So honestly, before I test it myself, I'm not sure. I will be sure only after I mount it myself and balance it.
I think one of the issues, now this arm seems a little on the short side. I feel like in order to support the tall cameras, you might need to sell an accessory to make this a little longer.
Currently, we can balance the 1DX Mark II already. So for any taller cameras, we might just use counterweight to offset the weight shifting to the top of the camera payload. We can mount something on the bottom to make it like downward heavy.
I know what you mean. I do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's really cool. I love this. I love the little screen. It's almost like a little control screen on it. Obviously, if it's a DJI product, it's built really solid. The hardware looks awesome on this. You have a little control, a little USB control here, and it looks like it's Manfrotto type
yes.
mount.
The camera quick release plate is the Manfrotto standard, so you can quickly switch from the gimbal operation to the standard tripod operation with ease. You don't need to unscrew anything. You just slide in and let's roll.
Can't wait to get this. It's going to be out. We don't know when. It's going to be the availability and price is going to be announced in May. Is that what you said?
It's announced in May, and we plan to start shipping according to the timeline that we provided by then.
So you must be scrambling because that's not far away. That's like a month.
Well, we're making it as hard as we can.
That's cool. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.
Keith Moreau signing off, DJI booth at NAB 2018. We're back with Soren here. I actually just had a few more questions, and it was so interesting I needed to continue the interview. So Soren was telling me about this angled, I don't know what this is called, the certain axis. Tell me about it.
Rolex. The slanted Rolex's design is basically allowing the user to actually see the camera monitor without adding extra weight on it. So it's basically helping you to save some like 1 pound or 2 pounds on it. The reason why we did it is because we want to maximize every ounce mounted on a gimbal. So we don't want to add you unnecessary weight. We don't want you to spend extra money when it's totally not necessary. If we can just modify our design to make you maximize the utility of the camera.
So I have a question. Why wasn't every single gimbal in existence, or at least the single ones, designed this way to start with?
Well, I'm not sure about others, but for us, we have multiple options available when we start designing the Ronin-S. And we finally picked this one because we deemed that when users use the gimbal, they're always shooting at eye level. And I don't want anything to block their communication with the camera. So if we have a gimbal motor here, it will entirely block up the access to the gimbal's the camera screen, and it's really hard to adjust the setting if there is anything in the way. So we try to lower it with a slanted design. The problem is DJI we're redesigning how the gimbal algorithm works on this gimbal. So it takes us extra time to make it stabilize and make it smooth on all axes at any angle.
when you have the what axis is it called again?
Roll axis.
When the roll axis is pointing downward like this, I assume that there's more math involved to make everything work well.
Yes, exactly. It's basically utilizing a whole new algorithm sets to make it smooth and working, functioning.
Because normally it wants to be at right angles to the camera.
The easiest way, because every gimbal, the traditional gimbals, every one of them is using that kind of design. But to having something new brings more difficulty on our team, but actually at the end of the day, it brings our users more utility.
So I was just wondering, like, if somebody just said, "Hey, let's just move this roll axis down, and it'll get out of the way of the viewfinder." Duh! Why didn't we think of that before? This is kind of what I'm thinking.
I'm not sure about that. Maybe they thought about it, but they didn't do it.
I think maybe what happened was since there was that kind of like universal software was out there, and then all your software was written for it, it made writing it for this more of a task, and it harder to get the product out.
Yes. So also the problem when we bring this new design is that we don't know if it will work in the first place. After several batch of prototyping, then we're sure that, okay, this is what we're going to make. Yeah. And also the slanted roll motor here allows you to do the quick like a high to low transition without hitting your camera in one take. So actually it's easier for you to operate the gimbal, right, as well. Not just by not blocking the screen, but also easier for operation. Right.
That's really, really, really cool. And these are the stepper motors?
Sorry?
There's certain type of motors that are smoother and encoded?
They're encoded brushless motors. All the DJI gimbals that we've built till now are using brushless motors encoded. Yeah.
And what's the advantage of that over some other type of motor?
Basically, it's like noise-free, and also it gives you better precision when you're controlling the angle.
Does it give you a little bit more power as well?
Well, power-wise, it's not like that. It's not how the mechanism is built. It's like how we design the coil inside a motor. Yeah. But these motors are really strong that they could sustain as high as like 75 miles per hour that we tested. We're still trying to reach out to the limit. So it's not final. We might be able to improve it a little bit. Yeah. Stay tuned and we'll let you guys know more about it.
This is awesome. Thanks so much. And we'll see you when it comes out.
That's our friends over at DJI and introducing the Ronin-S. And that's Soren representing DJI and our very own Keith Moreau right here on Tech Move as we continue to do NAB 2018. Hey, you know, this Ronin-S, it looks pretty darn good. I got to tell you, it looks really good. I mean, like, I know that the Z-Young crane is kind of like, you know, that seems to be the thing, the flavor of the moment. But this DJI Ronin-S, Keith, I think is going to give it a run for its money.
Yeah, I think that once it comes out, it's going to probably displace all the larger single gimbals out there. He said he had balanced an FS5 on it pretty easily. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because that's a fairly large camera.
Right.
So
and it looks sturdy as all get out, and it looks as if like it could handle all kinds of different cameras on this thing.
Yeah, I think it can handle almost anything except for something that's really long, like a regular camcorder.
Yeah.
But it might even handle something like a Canon C200, especially because one of the things they thought about the counterweighting stuff. So sometimes when a camera's too front heavy, which can happen in any gimbal, there's just not enough room in the back for you to balance it properly. You can't push it back far enough to get the center of gravity right, but you could put weights in the back. So so you can buy these special plates to put weights on the back of the camera, or you can screw stuff onto the back of the camera if there's holes for that. But they actually thought about adding weights to the bottom and the back just as part of the rig, which is really cool.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it's really smart. I mean, they thought of a lot of stuff. They're really smart people. Like, I was really impressed with this guy, Soren. They really have it together.
And the way he demonstrated was really great, and he was very forthcoming about certain things. I really enjoyed the interview.
Yeah, and he's the product or project manager for this particular product. So he's in charge of its success, and he told us about how they put out the original version and they got a lot of feedback, and then they're kind of modifying it to make it even better for people. That's really cool to just not produce something in a vacuum. It's a lot of companies sometimes it seems like they just produce something and they just make boneheaded decisions about things because they're just a bunch of engineers, that are in love with their product, and they don't really have feedback from people that actually use it. But I think DJI is becoming better at getting feedback and incorporating it, and that's really cool. So yeah, I probably will get one when it comes out in a couple months. I don't think it'll probably be less than $1,000, which is for that type of gimbal is a pretty good deal.
So you think it will be out in a couple of months?
They said Soren said it was going to be that their ship date was something like mid-May or June.
Okay.
So
it could be pretty soon, actually, at the time of this recording.
It'll probably come out, before we come out with this episode. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably out there right now, actually.
Pretty much anything will come out before this episode.
Yes, this is correct.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Mars landing.
Yeah. That's great. Well, so that's the DJI Ronin-S, new product, about to hit the market. I think it's going to be a very popular one at that. At least that's what we think here on Tech Move. So, Keith, thank you very much. Soren, thank you very much. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with another interview from our continuing coverage of NAB 2018 right here on Tech Move. All right, we have this is an interview. It's a really good interview, but I almost kind of want to double this, Keith, as a ever popular segment of Put Me in a Coma, because this interview kind of gets a little bit geeky in a way, and because we talk a lot about a great product from a company called Hedge. Mm-hmm. And we have the representative, Paul Matthijs Lombert, who was good enough to join Keith on the floor of NAB 2018 to talk about backup software for filmmakers. Is there anything you want to throw out there before we roll this interview, Keith?
Just that they kind of semi-sponsored Tech Move initially, just because he thought you were funny. I think that was the main thing. That was why they did it.
Well, then he didn't know a thing.
No, he actually said he laughed out loud in one of the episodes.
Oh, good.
That I showed him. So
good.
So he said, and just for that, I'm going to give you a free license.
Thank you.
So yeah,
because how I'm going to use it to back up all my software. and back up all my footage that I take of me, whatever it is,
selfies.
Whatever I do, right?
Lots of selfies.
Whatever I do.
Yeah.
Hey, what is there a product name? I mean, the company is Hedge, right? Or is that the same as the product name?
It's the same. I think they only have one. Well, I guess they have another product, but yeah, they're called Hedge.
Okay, fantastic.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's give a listen to Paul, and let's give a listen to Keith as he grills him, and talks about this great backup software for filmmakers, as it's really targeted for us artsy people. But again, this is a technical kind of thing, but it's pretty darn interesting. So here we go. This is Hedge on our edition of NAB 2018 right here on Tech Move.
Hi, this is Keith Moreau of Tech Move. We're here with Paul of Hedge, and I'm actually interested in this product because I actually own several copies of it, and I've used it all the time to actually back up my cards to my hard drives. So how's it going, Paul?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very good. So tell me a little bit about Hedge, and tell me about the product, and maybe you can give me a little bit of a demo. How's that?
Sure. Hedge is 2 years old. It's a backup app meant for those in video production that use the Finder to do copies, which isn't really secure. So we built an app that's extremely easy to use to copy multiple cards to multiple destinations all in one go. And I think I think our USP is the usability. It's super easy to do. It's fast. Everybody can do it. It's literally, we don't have a manual because you learn it in 10 seconds, I think. And well, last year that was our first NAB. We're just like testing the water. Is this going to work? And we just took off like a rocket. And we're back this year and with a lot of news as well. You want to have an update?
Let's look at it. Sure, let's look at it.
All right. We don't do regular product cycles like once every 1.5 years a new version. We do it about every 2 months, and release every 1 or 2 months. We do one new feature, and last one was duplicate detection last week. So right now with Hedge, you can always ingest anything to anything. So let's have a look. Let's set up a source here. Hedge accepts every drive your OS sees it works with, except LTO. We have a different app for that, but I'll show you later on. And let's say we want to copy to 2 destinations. You can choose a folder on a destination or the drive itself, fill it up. And let's do 2 sources here. One of the good things about Hedge is that slow sources or slow destinations don't hold up the other ones. Because then you have this really fast RAID and then you have this slow production drive for the director. That won't slow you down. It will take longer, of course, to finish, but the RAID will be done as fast as possible. And Hedge has no overhead in doing transfers, so you're always to the max of the bus speed. And Hedge has a lot of checksum mechanisms. There's a lot of error mechanism in it, but that only taxes your CPU. That never taxes the actual transfer speed. And that's quite a departure from other apps in the space. So yeah, basically I just set up a few disks, I hit add transfers, and they start running, and that's it in the basic workflow. And there's a lot of more advanced stuff inside Hedge if you go look for it. One thing that's really nice is labels. It's like you have this drive, it's called ES Digital, which it's not really useful. So you stick a bit of digital gaffer to it, and let's say this is camera A, and we do a slash, and it's reel 23. We do that. Then Hedge uses that label to create a folder structure for you. So you put your footage straight into the folder you want it to live it in. And the same goes for where the folder is on the source. Let's say you have this Canon card, which has this DCIM, clips, blah, 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 folder structure. Then if you select just the deepest folder once, from that moment on, Hedge will recognize every card that has that same folder structure as it's from Canon. Let's pick just that buried folder, copy just that data into all the destinations, saving you a lot of hassle of cleanup later on. Let's interrupt this transfer. Let's say this is a failed transfer. I just pulled out a card. Then this will be red if you do that. What's new in Hedge 18.2 is that if you then reconnect that card and retransfer it, it will detect the ones that were already copied and skip those, saving you a lot of time again. That's last week's update. The update before that was called Car Wash, which isn't really a feature but more of a workflow.
I actually like that one.
Yeah, you do. You
Yeah.
used it.
Well, I think I use one of the features, which is multiple sources and destinations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we dubbed it Car Wash because it sounds nice, and it's sort of Hedge was meant for on-site or on-location workflows with a fixed set of destinations, and it turned out to be a bit too limiting for a lot of people. Like post-production uses a SAN, they need to copy to 2 locations on the SAN, or they need to copy within a drive, or they need to copy just 3 folders from a source into something else. Well, there's a lot of different combinations possibly. So what we did is we removed all limitations in Hedge, and now you can just copy anything to anything, everywhere, anywhere. And you also don't need to copy all sources to all destinations. What you can do, let's clean this up for a sec. Let's say I want to copy this card only to that destination. There we go. And then I reset them all with Command R. Transfer keeps running. I go back to my disk view and I set up something else. Let's say, let's do that one into there. Add another transfer, there you go. And you just keep, if you have a lot of different transfer jobs, you can just keep setting it up. And we have quite an exciting roadmap, we think, ahead for 2018 as well. We see a lot of issues with the new MacBook Pros. Well, not with the Pros itself, they're great. but people buy these extremely cheap USB-C docks that you stick to the side, and they're nice, but they're not good for professional data transfers. They overheat easily, and then we see a lot of failing transfers on that. So what we want to do is detect those issues during the copy, even before the copy is failing. So the next version will have something called source verification, where you can pre-read a source and make sure that chip sent you the right data instead of corrupted data already, because shit in is shit out. So you need to be sure that you don't have corrupt data to begin with anyway. And
It's actually awesome. How long does that process take?
the extra read, you mean?
The verification of the disk.
It could be twice as long if you have a slow drive, a slow source, but with more modern media like S/S or AXS or P2 cards, it's going to be fairly fast, because the bottleneck most of the time with those cards is the destination. But it differs, but depends on your workflow.
So is it actually doing this verification pretty much for every byte it copies it also verifies?
No, we do verification for each copy, but we see some users that are having issues with these docks, or like shooting in Ecuador where it's really hot or humid or dusty in deserts. They need that source verification.
So, okay, now we're going to get a little bit geeky. Walk me through how that's actually working with that particular technology you're talking about.
Well, it's basically very standardized IT thing. You use a checksum, which is a digital fingerprint of a file, which you just calculate, and that's CPU intensive to do. So what you do is you can calculate hashes from the same file on multiple positions in the system, like on the source, on the destination, when in transit, or through a network drive. But it's a slow process. So what we do is we don't use the previously industry standard MD5, which was made for encryption purposes, which has a lot of overhead in the encryption in the cryptology department. We use a different algorithm made by a Frenchman, Jan Collet. It's called XX Hash, and we started using that from the get-go. It's, I think, about 6 times faster than MD5. And all other software in the space has adopted it already. So it's a really robust algorithm. That saves a lot of time. That's basically the good thing about it. It still gives you that fingerprint, but it saves you hours on a day. Especially if you have, let's say you have a shoot that's 12 hours, and then most of the time the data handler needs 4 or 5 hours overtime to get all that data done. If you can shave off 2-3 hours of that, it's pretty nice to go home together with the rest of the crew instead of sticking around in a hotel room while the rest is in the bar. So, and to prevent that issue, by the way, we have this nice app called Connect. It's available for iOS right now for free. Android version is in the works. That's something new. I hope that we have it end of summer maybe. And it allows you to go away from the computer while your transfers are running. You'll get a notification when it's done. You can run back to your hotel room or get back to the bar.
So you can go to the bar, you can have a few drinks, you get this notification. Hopefully it's loud enough to wake you up if you've accidentally passed out at the bar for whatever reason, and then you go back to your hotel room and you pull the cards out.
Yeah, well, you put it back in, and then a duplicate detection will skip everything that went fine.
So if you're
back to the bar.
So if you're so drunk that you accidentally put the same cards back in,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, I have a very fast copy of 0 bytes. Yeah, but it just works, so that's good. Yeah.
So, okay. So you've gone through a pretty excellent overview of Hedge. I love the quickness. I have other ways in the past before Hedge, I had other ways of copying and verifying my data. I used a really great product for backing up disks called Chronosync.
Yeah.
But
we use it ourselves.
I would imagine so, because it's very, very thorough. But it is every verification takes twice as long.
Yeah. It uses rsync, and rsync itself is great technology, but it's not meant for local synchronizations. It's really meant for over SSH network things. It's the de facto standard for that. But with these file sizes we nowadays have in video production, it doesn't cut it. So
it's too complicated.
Something else.
Yeah, I love Hedge because it's, especially with the car wash upgrade. It's because I have a lot of sources
different cards, and I have a lot of destinations because I store different files on different drives, different types of files, get from cameras on different drives sometimes. So now it's what I want it to be.
Yeah.
About a year ago, it wasn't so much. I had to go through this extra step of moving stuff around, but
I agree.
So
We started Hedge. There was this Dutch documentary challenge day, and it had 15 5Ds into 4 destinations, 12 times a day. There were 12-hour shoots, and those 5Ds fill up quickly on what are you shooting, HD. So we need an app to do that, and then after 4 seasons, the show stopped, and we were like, we need to do something with this software, which was still an Apple script, a 1,000-line Apple script. And we found some investors, and we decided, all right, we need to limit what that script does, because that script also did transcoding overnight into Avid with sync, EDL creation. It's way too big to put in an app. So we deliberately decided to extremely limit the feature size, the feature set of Hedge to just offloading, cloning, and then when traction started to pick up, we were like, okay, now we have the time and a bit more money to start adding all the flexibility back into the engine. And finally, it was a lot of work to do, but we're finally getting to the point where we think Hedge should be. And especially with the latest feature, that duplicate detection, it's like a sort of single direction sync. We have pause resume coming as well, automatic redo on fill. So you should be able to do basically anything to anything later on, except LTO again though. For those working with LTO, we have a new app. It's called Canister. We've created it together with M-Logic. It's going to be free for M-Logic users.
M-Logic is a hardware company.
Yeah, they're a hardware manufacturer, and they create LTO to Thunderbolt devices. It's a really neat package. And they also have really nice M-RAID systems. It's like a big Thunderbolt 3 RAID, really fast. But the problem with LTO is that it really behaves differently than a hard drive. So you can't just write data to it. It will severely limit the lifespan of the 30-year tape if you handle it as if it's a hard drive. So what we did is that we built a framework for it. It's called LTO Kit. It's like Apple has IO Kit and AR Kit, and we built LTO Kit, which is a framework that talks to LTO as if it's a hard drive, but underwater we handle all issues like illegal characters, name spacing, things like that. And that way you never have to go into terminal again, because LTO is really an IT format used in video production.
Talk a little bit about LTO just for those people that don't know what it is.
All right, LTO is a tape, like a cassette, on steroids, I must add. There's like a kilometer of tape inside one cartridge. It stores, LTO 7 does 6 terabytes, I believe, and there's LTO 8 already. It's larger, and it's the price per terabyte is extremely low. So it's a lot cheaper than hard disk, even the cheaper ones.
Give me an example.
I believe it's like 60 cents per something. It's like extremely cheap. But the drive itself is expensive. So you need to spend between 2 and 5K to start with one single drive. And that's hard to do, hard to justify for a lot of smaller companies. But we see insurance companies demanding LTO tape creation for commercials on set, for example, or if your production budget exceeds X dollars, then you need to do LTO. And with the LTO, it's made by IBM. It's all consortium, but the drive is made by IBM, and their roadmap is really great. The LTO speed is already on par with hard drives, and not with SSDs yet, of course, but it will get there someday. And so we think LTO is really viable for video production in the coming 10 years. And even with new technologies like storage DNA's Hypertape that was announced today, which we will be supporting, you can do direct access from tape. So you could do, if you have a frame-based codec and you write it to a tape, then normally retrieving that is file by file with a lot of stutters, and it takes a while. But with their technology, you can just stream it off, and you can use a tape directly in DaVinci, for example, without having a hard drive anymore. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the LTO world, we think. So it's a great technology, even if the underlying architecture is extremely archaic. We used example Apple code, which is about 22 years old in our app. It still works, but that's how old the whole instruction set is. So it's hard to get software to do it right. but it's a great technology.
And do you have any other products?
Yeah, we have this Connect app that was for free, the notifications app. Hedge is also available on Windows. And we have some news here. There's a FullCAD app. It does reports for RED cameras. It already exists for 5-6 years. It's made by Full Color. That's the company that also does the awesome remote control software for RED cameras. And they don't have the time to put more time into FullCAD. So we're doing a joint venture. We've taken over development of the whole app and still work together with them on the feature set, and we're releasing it today with ARRI support as well. It's going to be $80 available tonight. So we're breaking it out of the RED ecosystem into the whole world, basically.
Awesome. Okay, tell me a little bit about the pricing structure. You were actually kind enough to give me a free copy of Hedge way back, because I think I played an episode of you listened to an episode of our podcast, and you said I actually laughed out loud, and for that you deserve a free copy. But since then I think that free copy eventually stopped working, and so I bought one copy because I liked it so much, and I think I bought another one, and I think I actually own 3 copies now, but I'm not positive. And then at one point I was able to purchase a 1-month license for a reduced rate, $25 or something like that, or I'm not sure what the price is. Maybe you can go over the pricing of the products.
We're extremely liberal in our licensing. Like a regular license is $100 for the Mac or for Windows. You can get under $50. You get a license that works on both. But we don't work on a per computer basis. Let's say you have 5 Macs, but you're a one-man operation, then you'll use Hedge on just one. Well, you get 1 seat, activate all 5. We don't mind. It's fine. And it's an honor system, so as soon as you get someone else in and you start using Hedge on 2 machines, just add another license. And our licenses are perpetual, so you buy a license, it works forever, but you get a year of updates. So each update within that year from purchase is free, and you'll end up with that version for the rest of your life. Or you renew at some time, and a renew is half of the money. And we don't want to force you into renewing each year. It's not a subscription. We want you to renew when you think a new feature is worth renewing. So that way we get feedback from you if we're on the right course. It gives you a seat at the table.
It's actually really smart.
Yeah, well, it's the only way for us to survive. We need feedback from you guys because you know way better how things should work than we do. We know how to build software. We know how to create great interfaces. We like to design. And we have domain knowledge. But the problem with moving out of video production into software is that it's easy to disconnect from real-day practices. So we need your feedback, and we think our licensing system is a good way of enforcing that. Because if we do an update and nobody renews, that was a bad choice. And then we can reach out to people like, why is that? Why didn't that work out? Is the feature not good enough? And likewise, we did the duplicate detection. Everybody was, whoa, that's awesome. So that works.
That's awesome. I wish some other software companies. There's one up there in the corner of this hall that I wish they would do that.
And for some people, it's even that $100 price point is steep because we're bottom up. We like everybody to use it instead of Finder. Don't use Finder if you can.
Tell us why not.
Finder, the technology underneath Finder is great technology. Apple does a great job, but the reason the copy method that Finder uses exists is that it's built for copying within a drive. And the file system of drive has all kinds of safety measures to making sure that goes right. And there's nothing destructive going on either. You're not moving, if you're moving a file, you're not deleting the original. In video production, you're deleting originals. So you're creating a new single point of failure. And the only way to make sure you have no issues in that single point of failure is to do a checksum. And Finder does some kind of checksums, but they don't report it, so you can't reuse those checksums. So if you want to do a checksum, you need to do it twice, the whole reprocess, and that's too slow. So you need to do checksums while copying to create them, to be able to use them later on for verification, or at even some later time you create a report and then you give a travel drive to a customer and then he can re-verify that drive before putting it into the archive or onto LTO, something like that. So Finder is great technology, but it's just not suited enough or not on purpose enough for video production.
I think if you have one failure once in 100 times on Finder, which is probably even overestimating, it's still very annoying.
It is. It's always annoying, but the problem is it's not predictable. It will happen at some time.
You may not even.
Checksums we see issues because checksums can have collisions, and especially with metadata files, smaller files, then the entropy is small, so the collision rate of a crypto algorithm is high. So the chances for a collision are pretty high, and we do anonymous statistics in our apps. There's an analytics engine in there to keep the copy engine in check, to make sure that it does what it should do. And from that we learned that checksums have an error rate about once in a million times, a bit less, 985K. And that's not good enough. So even checksums don't cut it. It's not good enough. There used to be in IT, there used to be this vision of, well, when we do a checksum, that's the new truth. From there on, we're good. But there is no thing as a absolute truth anymore with storage. It's all volatile. So we prefer to work on a system called continuous verification. We've been in talks with larger companies to do every step in the process a new verification, add that to a sort of ledger, like blockchain you'd call it. And then there's a track record. There's like snapshots of what went where, what went with which hardware, and then you see patterns emerging in why are things going wrong. And we don't see a pattern in file size, we don't see a pattern in file extensions, like file types. It's just sheer luck. So it's an entropy problem, basically.
Okay, so I think most of the audience is now dozed off, but luckily their Connect app will wake them up. Anyway. So,
I could be nerdy.
No, this is awesome. We love nerdy. Tell us briefly, you did say a slight amount about what a checksum is, but give a 1-minute explanation of a checksum.
It's a digital fingerprint. Let's say you have a file of 1 MB and it says a 0 and a 1 and a 0 and a 1 and a 0 and a 1. And let's say you add the first 4 characters to the second batch of 4, and then you add those, and then the sum is 4, and then you add the third one, and then the sum is 6, and you iterate through all that kind, and then in the end you'll have a integer of that file. That's a fingerprint, and it's a lot more advanced than that, and it's not about integers, but it's hexadecimal and binary stuff going on, and multi-threading and stuff. But basically that's what is happening. It's the same thing with your bank account number. The last number is a check. It's like a summation of all the other numbers.
See, I didn't even know that.
That way you know the number is an existing number. And it's the same with a checksum. You know, if you have this fingerprint, and only if the fingerprint is identical, then the file will be identical.
The fingerprint is identical on the source and the destination.
Exactly. But there's an issue with that, because files are getting so large. We see a lot of 20 gig files being transferred. And if a checksum, let's say that costs you 5 minutes to copy, and then the checksum generation costs 5 minutes as well, or it happens at the same time, but it costs you a lot of time. If you want to redo it, it costs you a lot of time. So let's say this checksum fails on a file. A checksum only tells you it's different, but it doesn't tell you in which rate, which amount the file is corrupted. So we have this little tool in-house that we use to identify, to diff 2 files. And we see a lot of times happening that if you have a 20 gig file and you have a failing checksum, that's just 4 bytes that got flipped. And the footage is cool, it's good, there's nothing wrong with it. So we're trying to do some research and development into how could we determine, even if a checksum is wrong, if the contents are still good enough. Because it could be that it's all scrambled and then it's not good. You got purple stuff in your glitter or whatever inside your footage, that's not good. But some codecs are really forgiving in some bit flips somewhere. So we're doing R&D into maybe there's a better way of doing this kind of stuff. More suited for large files.
That's really, really interesting. You guys are really smart. Okay, so speaking about how smart you are, how did you actually get to this point? What's your history? I know you talked about a documentary. Tell us a little bit about yourself and also the history of the company.
I started this company with my partner Roelof, and we were both live sound engineers. We toured with bands. I used to work for Marillion, the singer of Fish, and he, after a few years, got into programming through an arts education. And he worked on the whole, if you see Madonna flying through a stadium or Rammstein on moving hoists, he built that, the software for it. And I went a different path. I went into audio mastering and acoustics. And then someday I was asked for a Dutch TV show to help out on a microphone issue. They had this problem and they needed a specialty microphone. So I designed a microphone array for them. And because it was experimental, I just needed to sit there for the whole duration of the show, basically, which was 2 weeks. Long days, and it was quite boring because it worked. And there was this guy running around and being really stressed out, but turned out to be 15 cameras. It's 12-hour shoots. It's long. There's a lot of data. And he was using Finder to back up. And it was like having all these guys, which card did I do? And they're all named the same, and the footage is all named the same. And you have the issue with Canon that there's only 999 files, and then it really...
Sony, where it's just 0 to...
Exactly.
So many 0, 0, 0, zeros.
And I was feeling for that guy. So like, hey, let's help you out. I'll write a little Apple script that at least renames the discs for you. Like, this is camera 12. Camera 12, it's instead of untitled. That's the start. And then I helped him out. Well, let's advance a bit more on this. Let's put Finder tags on stuff that's been transcoded. And let's do... in the end, we just copy the files even. And then the next year, he said, you do it. Sure, and I brought in a friend to do all the audio stuff because I didn't have time to do the audio stuff there. And he was a programmer at that time, Thomas. And in 4 years' time, we created this whole Apple script, just keep adding stuff, copying, verification. And we didn't know anything about this space. We didn't know there was software that did that. We Googled it, but it was like, we had ChronoSync, and that was way too slow, even then. This is 7 years back. So we built basically our own major Apple script, which was only usable for ourselves. And then after 4 seasons, the show stopped, and we just ventured on into mastering and audio. But we were like, we got this sort of great thing, and we started working on it for a year. Can we turn this into a company? Can we do data handling as a thing? But the Netherlands are way too small for a dedicated DIT company. So then we said, well, it's not going to be a service, then it has to be a product. So we need a real programmer. That's when Roelof came in. And, well, pretty quickly it turned seriously, and we said, well, if we want to do something with this, we need to be able to do it full time. So I went looking for investors, and I found them a month later. It was pretty easy, backside. And then we re-envisioned the whole thing, and that turned out to be Hedge, basically. So it's all a long process. It's, I think, 7 years in the making. But Hedge itself, we started working 2.5 years ago on. Like the first lines of code 2.5 years ago. It's been quite a ride.
I think you guys are doing great. I know you have a couple competitors, but I don't even use those products anymore, so I'm really happy with your product.
Well, there's a lot of competitors in the space on the same level as we are and also above us. We think Silverstack is awesome software for DITs. That's really great advanced stuff, and we don't see ourselves as competitors, more like you can use it in conjunction if you're a DIT. Use Silverstack because you need metadata, you need reports, you need coloring stuff, and use Hedge just for fast transfers. That's what we're for. And then
perfect for my setups. Well, honestly, we could probably be talking for another several hours on all this.
Maybe we should have a beer later on.
Actually, we're going to continue this because I think we're going to go to IBC, which you're located, right?
Hometown.
So we'll visit you at IBC in Amsterdam.
Thanks.
So it was really nice meeting you. Really appreciate your time. This is Keith Monroe signing off for TechMove.
Checksumming, backups, all the techie stuff. That is Paul Matthijs Lombert from Hedge and our very own Keith Moreau and the NAB 2016 coverage from TechMove. Keith, you use this software, right? You continuously have used this software.
Yeah, I've used it for a couple years since I first got it.
Yeah. So tell me this, all that techie stuff, that's all great. What does it mean to me as a filmmaker that you're able to back up your stuff using this software? Well, just give it to me in plain English.
It's fast and reliable.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah, and it's well, maybe one word. It's simple.
Yeah,
it's not overly complicated.
So is it essentially like, of course, it does everything in the background, clicking and dragging to another folder, and there you are, you're backed up type of thing?
It's slightly more complicated than using the Finder, but not much.
Okay.
You basically have your cards on the left side of the left pane. Like you've got this kind of big bucket in the middle, a big pane in the middle of all your different possible drives and things, including cards and stuff like that. And then you drag the source to the left, and you drag the destination to the right, and then you click transfer, and then it starts. So if you want it to, that's as simple as it gets. You can make it a little bit more complicated by setting the destination folder and other things, but which I do. Although that wasn't really possible into the recent version. Like it was so basic that you could just basically copy from one card, and make a new folder on the other drive, and you couldn't really burrow into destination places. But now you can do that, and you can do it with multiple cards. So I have different destinations depending on the card, even if they might be on the same drive or they're in different folders. So yeah. It didn't used to do this. You used to have to just do basically one copy at a time, and then they would always kind of be in the root. So now you can set a source and a destination for multiple cards, like when you're doing 5 or 6 cards from a big shoot all at once. So you don't have to stay there and then push the next card in, put the next card in. You can just put them all in one. So if you have enough readers, and I've got tons of readers, so I just put all the cards in, do this little thing. It takes about 5 minutes to set up all the different destinations, and then hit go, and then done. And then it also gives me notifications once it's done. So I can tell.
Give me a real as accurate example as you can as far as speed goes. What are we talking? You say it's fast. Let's say give me an example of like a 1 gig file, 2 gig file, whatever it is, and you're backing it up. Can you, or is that not a good example?
Well, I could give it if I remembered exactly how all this stuff goes, because a lot of it has to do with the speed, the reading speed of your card.
Yeah.
And also the writing speed of your destination.
But
it's faster than using I think it's faster than using the Finder. Like if you just drag and drop, it's faster than that. Plus it has the verification aspect to it.
Yeah, which is really helpful. Which is really helpful on that.
Yeah. I used to use this thing called ChronoSync to do the same thing.
I remember that. I think we did a segment of that on Tech Move early on.
Yeah, and ChronoSync is pretty geeky and really, I think, maybe even more reliable than Hedge, although Hedge is probably as reliable as you could possibly want. But ChronoSync is probably even more reliable in case that 1 in a million bad checksum happens to you, because it would actually read it back and verify it. I think Hedge actually does it now. I think the very newest version even has that level of verification. Like if you're really paranoid and you have the time, then you might want to use that method. And I probably will, because you never know. Because there's some algorithm, there's some chance of error in the algorithm that anybody uses for verification, if it's this fast checksumming verification that Hedge uses. So the real way to make sure that it's perfect is to read back every single byte that you've copied and compare it to the source. And that's what I do when I duplicate drives, when I duplicate really big drives, like if I'm recovering from some disaster, which happens every other week with me on hard drives, which I'm going to talk about in the next segment, I think. Anyway, but
tremendous, yeah.
But and you could talk, and we got a little history from Paul too, which I think he enjoyed.
Yeah, and what once I kind of, my eyes rolled back in the back of my head with all the checksumming stuff, but then his background of being a sound engineer. That sparked, I'm sure that sparks your interest too, you being one as well.
Yeah.
And, but I'm actually quite familiar with the act that he mentions that he used to engineer for, which is Marlian. And specifically, I think the singer's name is Fish out in the UK. And they were very famous in the 80s. Marlian was for a hit song called Kaylee. And that was a huge hit out here in the States. And let me look it up real quick because I wonder what it charted. But it was a really really big hit, and for him to be engineer and then kind of move into this type of thing, pretty neat.
Was it like a dance?
No, I wouldn't say it was a dance thing. It was kind of more artsy fartsy song.
Okay.
I encourage you to give it a listen. But it was
I just pulled it up on iTunes and I played a little bit while you were talking.
Yeah.
It's Kaylee.
Kaylee.
It's, part of the Marleon Essential Collection.
Yeah. Well, because that's pretty much the one huge hit. Although I do think that this guy Fish, I think he's like a national hero in the UK.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's some huge, and I think he still tours, today. So,
wow, they go back pretty far.
Yeah, I'll see. It peaked at number 2 in the UK on the singles chart and was on there for 14 weeks. And but I don't know what it. Let's see, it became the first solo appearance of the band. Oh wow! I guess it didn't do so great here in the States. It hit number 74 in 1985. So it wasn't. At least it was in the top 100. But
that's not bad. But that goes back pretty far. Well, that's pretty cool. So I didn't realize he was that old. This guy, because he looks pretty young.
He looks young. Yeah, he looks young. I mean,
although maybe it was Marleyan, like when they were past their prime. Because I just pulled up a picture and they all look pretty old.
Oh, Fish is he's an older guy. I think he's in his mid 60s by now. So
okay.
Yeah, he's an older guy. So
okay.
Anyway, nice little claim to fame. I like that.
Yeah,
so
that was cool, and he was a really cool guy, and he enjoyed the interview, and
I enjoyed learning a little bit about that stuff too. So that was good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, great. Thanks to Paul. Thanks to Keith. Thank you very much. And we'll have more of our NAB 2018 right after we take a quick little break right here on Tech Move. Well, that is going to do it for us in our coverage of NAB 2018. Keith, I think overall a pretty good show, considering that really there wasn't a ton that was really to be expected. Would you agree? We weren't really. There was nothing really earth-shattering that we were waiting to see during NAB, right?
Yeah, not in my wheelhouse or our realm.
Yeah.
Maybe for broadcasters or some other people, there were some things. But no, it was not too many new announcements. I think the biggest announcement camera-wise was the Blackmagic announcement of their Pocket 4K.
Oh, right.
I think that was the biggest thing, and it's not out yet, and who knows when it's going to be out. So, but still, when it does come out, it might be pretty cool.
Yeah.
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 But in that, everything's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, out of all the NABs, very informative. I think this was still, and in some ways when they're not introducing some stuff, it gives us a little bit more time to kind of delve into some of the other things that maybe don't get the headlines.
Yeah, I think so. And also just focusing on, I don't know, sometimes the smaller companies and the less formal companies are more interesting, because they get, maybe because they're not so into saying the same thing about this new product over and over and over and over again, they can get into more detail about something else. Maybe that's kind of what you're saying. So I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
And also just me being more relaxed and crazy with everybody and not caring.
Well, and you know
helps.
what? and you know what? Congratulations, because the equipment this time sounded even more fantastic than it usually does. So,
well, thank you.
So that was really good.
Thanks, and thanks to Veronica for helping out with
Yeah,
that.
thank you,
She's
Veronica.
very good at crowd control and aiming the camera.
Yeah, no, that's quite the skill. So
Yeah, you can, and I think in a couple shots you can see her hand coming out and, pretty much karate chopping people out of the way.
good.
So.
Good. Well, so our next show that we'll be visiting will probably be what, Caniglia?
Yep, that's coming up. That's early June.
Okay.
Yeah, not too far.
Hopefully there'll be some stuff there.
Yes.
Before we sign off, though, there's always a continuing saga with Keith Moreau, and that is a backup disaster.
Oh, yes. Another one.
And so I know that you wanted to share a little bit with the good folks at home, and so
Yes.
why don't you set us off a little bit here?
Yes. So this was, when was this? This I think was actually the beginning of NAB, right before I left, like the day before I left. So I had a couple projects kind of done. Luckily I wasn't right in the middle of a project. I think I just delivered a project, basically, a really big one. And it was done. It was gone. And so I have this thing where, so I have this thing called Backblaze. It's a backup service.
Right.
I think I've talked about it. It's
Yes,
actually
you have.
really great. It's a really great service. I recommend it to everybody. But I think I've taxed Backblaze to the limit because, they have this personal service, which is really cheap. It's only like $5 a month. And it's unlimited backups as long as the drives are connected to your computer. It doesn't do network drives. It doesn't do NASA's. It just does stuff that's physically connected to your computer. But if it's connected to your computer, it's unlimited backup. So I actually have about 70 terabytes stored in the cloud on Backblaze. So what happened was when I migrated from my old Mac Pro cheese grater to my new iMac, there's a way to, when you change computers, when you upgrade computers, there's a way to inherit all the drives and the startup drives and everything from the old computer to the new computer. It's kind of the process. It's called inherit backup state. And you do that with Backblaze, and then Backblaze will essentially just try to use all the data and kind of change it over to your new computer. And I think I've done it successfully before, once or twice. I haven't changed computers too often,
Yeah.
but I think I've done it when the previous time. And sometimes it's the same thing when you change startup disk. Like if you upgrade your startup disk, it's the same thing. It thinks that the computer's different. So anyway, so it didn't, unfortunately, I think because I have so much stuff and the Backblaze database is so big and maybe a little bit corrupted, it did not successfully do this inherit backup state. And I tried it like 1,000 times, and I also read about it online, and it just, sometimes when your backups, when you have too much data or too many files, it just doesn't work. So I said, okay, that's fine. So my kind of backup solution, or my alternate solution, was to have two different sets of backups, one for my old computer and one for the new computer. So I'd still have all this stuff backed up in the cloud. I still have to pay $5 a month for the old computer, but that's paltry compared to all this data. Is it, you following me?
Oh, yeah.
But the problem is with Backblaze is that you have to basically check in your computer and update it and connect to Backblaze every 30 days, or else the drives that it's backed up start going away.
Oh, so do you have to actively kind of like self-time yourself as to when to do this?
Well, luckily Backblaze gives you a warning about drives and computers that have not been connected to their system. So they email you, and they also give you other notifications. And so it tells you, but I also do have like something in my calendar reminding me. So at about 25 days, I start thinking about plugging my old computer in, and all the same drives, which are connected to my new computer now, but they haven't been completely uploaded yet. So to preserve the backup of those old computers, it needs to see those online with the old computer. The old drives need to be connected to the old computer, and then I need to connect to Backblaze. So I had already done this like maybe once or twice. This refreshing thing it takes about a day. It communicates with Backblaze, and then Backblaze shows that the timer is reset. So now I have another 30 days from that point.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Because then, you just reset the clock.
Yeah. So basically every month or so, I go through a little bit of trouble of turning off my computer, plugging in my drives, and then turning on my old computer and plugging all the drives in, and and attaching to Backblaze, and it's about a day. I just do it overnight, and in one night it can check that all the drives are updated and might update a couple little things here and there. Anyway, for some reason, when I did it this time, it started deleting my drives. Started getting deleted, and it was not Backblaze's fault at all.
Oh, it was not.
But
okay.
No, it wasn't. It was related, I believe, to the software that I use called Softraid, which I use on a couple massive drives I have. It's a way of software rating enclosures that can present themselves as a bunch of different drives. They're called JBOD enclosures.
Okay.
And then the software in your computer looks at all those separate drives and then raids them together so they're super fast. And it's a really good way to get a lot of performance, but through software of a drive rather than having the enclosure doing all the rating, because then you get health monitoring and other stuff that the software provides. So it's actually theoretically a really good system, but for some reason with me and my computer and a couple raids that I had used with Softraid, it just got corrupt. These things just got corrupted. These drives got corrupted. Volumes, I guess.
Yeah.
And one just disappeared, and then when I tried to remount it, it couldn't. It said it could not recognize the drive. I tried using Disk Warrior on it. So basically it happened to my internal drive that that I had that I was pretty much using as my main drive. And on my old computer, and then it happened also to an older backup. So two software drives just suddenly, just basically went away, and there was nothing I could do to recover them.
How big were these drives? Did you say?
They're like 12 terabytes.
What?
And this is like these are like my main drives. Like this was my main drive in my computer that has all my documents in it. Because I don't store my documents onto my SSDs. I store them on this drive. So it was like really, really scary. And
would these be recent files that you had and stuff like that?
Well, they were, they were very, very recent files. In fact, one of the things that got hosed was one of our tech moves.
Oh no!
Like two or three sessions of our tech move recordings. That's why the last tech move that was out, I think episode 41, my sound is really bad because I'm using your Skype of me in two or three of the segments.
Well, see, little do you know is that I just actually sabotaged you so I would have the spotlight, and that
why does Keith sound so crappy?
Right.
That sounds
but
excellent.
Rodney sounds so robust and refined.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what happened, and so I had one backup left, which was fairly recent backup, but still it was my only one left, and it was also a Softraid volume, and I didn't really know what to do. I felt like I better not, while it's still healthy, I better take it offline before it starts erasing itself somehow, because I had no idea what was causing it, and I sent all these messages to the Softraid people. What's going on? Why is this happening?
Did they respond?
Yeah, they did. They have really excellent support. So that's one thing about Softraid. Their support, and I think it's this one guy named Mark, but he is awesome. He's like there 24/7. I don't know. He doesn't seem to sleep. Or he just works at home or whatever. But they're really good. And as far as support goes, but he really couldn't help me with it. He suggested a couple things. He suggested I send a log. Now I was in NAB, so I couldn't send the log. So I had to wait till I got home to do that, but by that time I figured all the data was hosed. Luckily I had this drive which was pretty recent. It was like maybe 2 days old, and luckily like 2 days before I had done a full backup on it. I had been kind of in one of the situations where it was kind of lagging and I wasn't backing up to it because I just switched over from my iMac and all this stuff, and it was complicated. But luckily, like 2 or 3 days before, I said, I better figure out why this is not backing up and start doing the backup. And I did it. And so I really had this pretty fresh backup of only 2 days old stuff. But I didn't want to plug it in because it was also a Softraid volume. So I was really paranoid about losing this final volume, which was pretty much everything. So what I did was Backblaze, which is pretty cool. I checked on Backblaze to see when the latest upload was, and they hadn't uploaded too much. The most recent upload they had for my startup drive, or my main data drive, was like a month old. But I
Okay.
kind of felt like a month old was still better than nothing.
Yeah.
But it was in one of those situations where the original drive that was backed off my Mac Pro was gone. So I couldn't back up from that. That was the one that got totally deleted by Softraid or whatever.
Right.
So, but I had a month-old version of that when I last backed up my Mac Pro. So I ordered from Backblaze, and they have this really cool service where you order up to a 4 terabyte drive of whatever data you can fit onto that 4 terabytes, and you pay about $190 for it. And so I ordered 2 drives because it was basically about 8 terabytes of data, a little bit less. So I ordered 2 of those for $400, and they copy all the data that you specify on there. So I had to kind of make 4 terabytes fit on each one by selecting folders and stuff like that. It wasn't that hard. And then they sent it to me. By the time I got back from NAB, I think it had arrived, these 2 little 4 terabyte drives. So I had that, and I was able to use my kind of 4-day-old backup to restore to another drive. But I decided not to use Softraid for those JBODs anymore. It's just too risky. I had another couple issues happen with it with the same configuration. I just don't trust it, unfortunately. And I don't mean to disparage the company. I think it's awesome. OWC and other companies use that software. It's just, for me, whatever, I have not had good luck with it. It's just not worth it. So I just decided to get some faster new technology Drobos. To replace those 2 main drives. So I got 2 of the 5D Drobos. They're Thunderbolt 3 5-bay Drobos.
And so now you're no longer technically going to back up to the cloud. You're going to do it locally now.
No, I'm still going to back up to the cloud because that was really very convenient. I'm always going to do that. I'm not going to use Softraid to create these large fast volumes anymore. I just can't afford to use it and have things deleted. It was like the most horrifying thing I've ever experienced. So it was really stressful.
So did you lose absolutely everything? I mean, is it just gone, or did you have something else?
I lost everything but about 3 days of stuff, including those couple tech moves. But I didn't lose anything else. Luckily, I had all my projects and my Premiere Pro and all my editing and footage all on other drives. It wasn't on my main drive. So all that's on my main drive is all my kind of like personal and business stuff, not like video data, but more like documents, like invoices and tech move, couple
business stuff.
Yeah, but it's still a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's like decades of stuff.
Sure.
So for me to lose that would have been really horrible. So I was pretty scared for a few days. Really paranoid. Like that one drive that was 3 days old, I just shut it down. I didn't plug it in or anything. I just had it set aside because I didn't know if it was going to start erasing itself.
Sure. You don't know what little minion is inside and just gonna start deleting stuff.
Yes, and it was so weird. And it only seemed to happen to these JBOD Softraid volumes. It happened to three different volumes, like within the space of 24 hours. And but luckily, this one drive that was my backup was not a Softraid RAID. It was actually its own RAID. It's a box that does its own rating, RAID 5.
Right.
And so I felt, after I determined that, because I physically looked at the box and looked at the switches and everything, and it wasn't set to JBOD mode. It was set to its own RAID 5 mode. So I figured it's not going to get erased by Softraid. And it wasn't. So after I came back, I verified that, and I felt a little bit better about it. But still, that was pretty much the only copy of my data.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is pretty scary.
Yeah.
Especially for you, because you've just got so much stuff.
I know. Yeah. But I got the Drobo 5D, which I like a lot. And it's maybe not quite as fast as the Softraid, like a lot slower than the Softraid volumes, but I feel a lot more secure with it. Just having this hardware RAID, but also the Drobo technology. And it's got a total of 5 8 terabyte drives in it. So it can hold a lot of data.
Yeah.
And I actually have it also now. I'm even more paranoid. Now I have other drives time machining to that drive, and so I can get incremental backups to it. And the first time I've used time machine in a while. But anyway,
that's great. Well,
yeah, so
good.
that's my kind of disaster but recovery. But just even if you got stuff backed up, you never know when some weird thing's going to happen to your drives.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, exactly. I think that let this be a well, that's what you always tell us is that back up and back up again.
Yes.
You use different technologies, whatever it is, but keep backing up.
Keep backing up, and then always have maybe even a backup. Even if it's a month old, it's still you've only lost a month of data instead of all your data.
Right.
So, yeah.
Good. Well, hey, very valuable lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Keith, for sharing that with us, because we all know that me and our audience can always laugh at your misfortunes, especially when it comes to that kind of stuff. So thank you for always being entertaining.
Oh, yes. I'll be sure to have another disaster soon.
Well, you know what? We can always count on it. Anyway, Keith, we got to end this episode right here. But it was, but it's been a fantastic one, and thank you very much for doing your coverage at NAB, and thanks to all the guests that we've had, and we want to thank the listening audience for joining us. We also want to encourage all of you guys to not only check out our webpage, which is techmovepodcast.com, but also make sure that you subscribe to us on iTunes and all those other great things that we incessantly tell you about. Keith, I think you also, we have a YouTube channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me check that out.
I don't even know if it really exists. I don't know if we really paid the rent on that or not, but
no, it's definitely there.
Oh, okay, good.
I think it's just Tech Move Podcast. Let me see.
I mean, that would be excellent if it was.
Yeah, let me see let me see where you could find it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking.
Oh, I
on
see
here.
it. You're right. Tech Move Podcast.
Oh, you did. You found it?
Yeah, I did. And boy, we have a ton of subscribers. It's probably you and me, I think, subscribing. So
I
think there's only one. There's only one thing on there.
There's only one video right now. Yeah, I'm gonna start uploading all the stuff to that channel. Previously, it was on my own channel.
Okay.
But I created this one.
I appreciate that. That's great. I'll be putting up vacation videos of myself, suntanning or something.
I think you should.
So just get on YouTube and search Tech Move Podcast, and we're there. You'll see our whopping one, quite possibly two videos that will be there pretty soon. We'll build more content as we move along here. It only takes us about 5 years to get these things launched. So, but hey, anyway, thank you very much to everybody for participating and listening, and thank you, folks, for joining us here on this special episode of Tech Move. For Keith Moreau, I have been Rod Louie, and we once again thank you so much for joining us on Tech Move. We'll see you next time.